Greetings, aliens and Predator enthusiasts. Mark your calendars for August 16th as Aliens Romulus makes its highly anticipated release. To commemorate this event today, Long Reds will present the saga everyone should revisit, the epic clash between the DC Universe and the alien Xenomorphs and Yautja predators. Xenomorphs, the aliens who kill for survival, and Yautjas, honorable hunters seeking the ultimate challenge. Who will reign supreme? Will the fittest endure? Who will become the hunter? And who will be the hunted? Prepare for a heart-pounding journey through the epic battles where DC heroes confront the greatest threats from the Dark Horse universe. Fasten your machetes, chainsaws, guns, and flamethrowers. The bloodiest and most thrilling fight of all time is about to begin. But before we begin, we have a small request. If you like our content, please subscribe to our channel. It is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Batman Aliens. Round 1. Close Encounter of the Third Kind. As Batman was getting deployed to a mysterious site, he reminisced about the concept of horror that he had faced since he was a child. His parents murdered, his war on crime, his never-ending battles with ever-changing types of criminals. All of these made him come to a decision that he had never faced true horror, for it was yet to come. An autopilot batplane, programmed to ditch in the Gulf, deployed him into the swamps of Mexican-Guatemalan border. He fell into the river and swam up. He was welcomed by a lady from an American covert ops team named Hyatt. She told him not to move. She pulled out her gun and shot at him. But her target was not Batman. It was a 12-footer crocodile behind him. Unfortunately, the bullet didn't hurt the crocodile. It jumped on Batman to take a bite out of him. Batman pulled the crocodile underwater and started wrestling with it. He took out his bat rope and strongly tied the crocodile's mouth. Then he pushed the crocodile on its way and it swam through. Right then, another covert ops personnel arrived and pointed his gun at the crocodile swimming away. He was Captain Seeley of the covert ops team. Batman warned Seeley, telling him that the crocodile was just acting as per its nature, but Seeley didn't budge. With lightning speed, Batman snatched the gun from his hands, leaving him baffled. Batman and Seeley got into an altercation. Seeley said that they were on a covert mission on a secluded land on which military law was imposed. As a result, Batman had to leave. Batman said that he was on a mission of mercy and he had left his only partner at home. He would not turn back, so Seeley had to. Hyatt stopped both of them and negotiated the terms of engagement. She finally brought Batman around where Batman allowed them to follow him. She introduced them to Page, Gantry, Vanderpool, and Seeley. Together, they moved towards the site northeast. On the way, Seeley rattled Batman again and told him to lead them towards the site. But Batman did not trust Seeley. He wanted Seeley in front of him so that he could keep watch. Their disagreement eventually culminated into a fight where Batman punched him so hard that he fell out of the jungle. Startled and bewildered, Billy spotted something behind. He asked for a flare gun from Page and shot it into the sky. As the flare lit up the site, a mammoth spaceship, broken and dilapidated, stood in front of them. Seeley and his team had found what they were looking for, but Batman was in search of something else. Seeley and Page teamed up with Batman and Hyatt, and Vanderpool and Gantry went the other way. They agreed to rendezvous back in 15 minutes. Suddenly, they heard Vanderpool's screams and rushed towards it. They discovered a dead humanoid alien wrapped up in a symbiotic flesh splattered into the wall and an open egg in front of it, an ovomorph, and it had already hatched. While Gantry repeated verses from the Bible scarily, Vanderpool said that he was startled, so he put one bullet into the alien's head, but he maintained that the alien was already dead. While the soldiers bickered, Batman found a facehugger lying on the floor. He understood that the little bastard blasted its way out of the alien's chest. He told the soldiers to stop quarreling until he gathered more data. Seeley had planned to break up in groups and gather whatever they could get their hands on. Batman alerted him and told him to be careful. All of them gathered up and sat in front of a bonfire. While Page went hunting a wild monkey, Hyatt disclosed that she was a woman of ambition and would do anything to reach a place of power one day. Suddenly, Page's blood-curdling screams filled up the night air. They rushed towards the scream and came to an old shrine-like ruin complex. They found trails of Page's blood. Batman wanted to go in alone, but Seeley and his team barged into the shrine in front of him. While they went in, a plethora of rabid jungle bats flew out. Reaching through a tunnel, they found another corpse, a human this time. It was similarly stuck to the wall with the resin-like substance. His chest cavity was also hollow, as if something blasted its way out of him. Batman disclosed that the man's name was Abel Barrett, a geologist working for Wayne Tech. Batman had come in search of him on request of his family. While they talked, Hyatt stealthily hid a tape recorder that she had found on the ground. Batman went in further with the soldiers when, as if by miracle, they found Page hanging from the walls. Batman found an ovomorph in front of Page and it had hatched. Gantry told Page to pray with him, but Batman pushed them all aside and asked if Page was okay. Page said that he could feel something move inside of him. As Batman was about to cut him down, Seeley blew Page's brains out. out. Batman screamed at Seeley and called him a murderer and pinned him into the wall, but the others held him back. Seeley maintained that Page was a casualty as soon as that thing got inside him, and right then, 3 Xenomorph attacked Seeley. One of the Xenomorphs shot its secondary jaw probe towards Seeley, but Seeley shot it off with his gun. The Xenomorph's jaw was blasted, but its acid blood spurted and burned half of Seeley's face. Another Xenomorph attacked Hyatt, but Batman held his jaw shut using his bat rope and pulled it aside. The chaos had escalated. One Xenomorph attacked Gentry using its inner jaw probe and delivered a fatal strike. Vanderpool shot one of the Xenomorphs, but its blood burned his hands. Batman jumped on one of them and it shot out its inner jaw towards him. Another one tried to attack him from behind, but Seeley started taunting the creatures and shooting madly on all of them. One of them jumped on him from behind, but before it could kill Seeley, he blew himself sky high with a grenade and took the Xenomorph with him. There was a cave-in from the blast simultaneously. Batman covered Hyatt and Vanderpool from the rubble, and they emerged slowly. Batman bandaged Vanderpool's hand. He stated that the Xenomorphs were cunning and knew their way around the ruins, and it was just a matter of time that the creatures located them. On the other hand, the crocodiles entered the cave through the rivers, and one of them stood directly in front of an ovomorph that was about to open and throw out a facehugger. Round 2, the Abyss looks back. Batman dreamed about the fateful night his parents were murdered, only in his dream he did not go to watch The Mark of Zorro. He and his parents walked out of the theater that was playing It Came from Outer Space. In his dream, Bruce was unhappy that he didn't get to see Zorro. His parents took him through a shortcut alley, and it was dark and scary. His parents pacified Bruce that there was nothing to be scared of, when suddenly Thomas Wayne screamed there was something on his face and he couldn't speak, let alone breathe. As Bruce approached his father, he found that Thomas's face was covered by an alien facehugger. As he turned to his mother Martha for help, she started screaming. Something was trying to come out through her chest. As Bruce tried to help her, a chestbuster Xenomorph tore out into the open through Martha's chest. Her pearls scattered in the alley as young Bruce sat down, saying sorry to both of them. In his dream, young Bruce transformed into Batman, and suddenly a chestbuster hit his chest from inside, and he screamed out in pain. Batman's fever dream broke. He apologized to Hyatt and Vanderpool for falling asleep. Vanderpool said that they had limited supplies and they were short of firepower. They wouldn't survive much longer. Hyatt offered a gun to Batman, but Batman declined. Batman deduced that there were only 2 Xenomorphs left. He said that the Xenomorphs were going through a life cycle. The eggs ovomorphs ejected facehuggers that implanted an embryo inside a living host. The fetus then hatches outside the host, forcing the reptilian form into maturity with alarming speed. Batman chalked out that there weren't enough bodies for Xenomorphs to be created, and also, one of them was taken down by the grenade. As Batman discussed this, another Xenomorph bursted out of a crocodile's chest. Suddenly an idea came to Batman's mind. He decided to follow the bats to the next surface area. As they went further inside, they discovered a shrine-like place which had walls covered in hieroglyphics. Batman interpreted a few of them and found out that they were headed further towards a grotto, a place of religious importance. The markings also spoke about a sacrificial area and something about fire. As they prepared to move forward, a big Xenomorph attacked Vanderpool. Batman put its head on fire with the flaming torch he was carrying while Hyatt shot one of its hands. The Xenomorph's corrosive blood fell on Vanderpool's helmet, but Batman opened it before it could eat through his skull. As Batman struggled with the creature, another one crawled down from the ceiling and pulled Hyatt up. Batman instructed Vanderpool to run and kicked free from the Xenomorph's deadly embrace. He pulled Hyatt down and ran towards the stairs. A Xenomorph shot out its inner jaw towards Batman, but Batman planted a grenade inside it. The Xenomorph blasted into pieces and its acid blood was scattered everywhere. Batman shielded himself and Hyatt with his cape, which took heavy damage. Once Hyatt was in the stairway, Batman used his enormous strength to bring down one of the old statues and block the path to the corridor. They met up with Vanderpool and reached the end of the line. It was a big shrine in the shape of a deity head inside a waterfall, and it was enormous. In order to secure a line, Batman climbed up and swam through the torrential river and got up while below Vanderpool and Hyatt. As Batman reached an open area and looked towards a huge staircase that made its way towards a sacrificial shrine, a Xenomorph attacked Vanderpool. Vanderpool pleaded with Hyatt to shoot the Xenomorph, but Hyatt stood still. She had some other plan in her mind. She fired upwards to alert Batman. Batman jumped down to help them, but by that time, Vanderpool was gone. Hyatt started crying when Batman arrived and embraced him and implored that he did not leave her. She said that the Xenomorph was also dead. As she shot it, they climbed up the shrine and went to the top. Batman secured a line to the ceiling where there was an exit to the surface, but suddenly Hyatt hit him in the head with her gun. Disoriented, Batman fell down the staircase. Hyatt told him that she wanted everyone out of her path. She took out the tape recorder she had coveted and played it for Batman. From Barrett's recorded journal, Hyatt had understood that the Xenomorphs were basically bioweapons and they were to be pointed to the right direction and the opponent could be wiped out instantly. Batman said that the Xenomorphs were extremely dangerous and could never... Then he warned Hyatt to look behind her. Hyatt thought that Batman was calling her bluff. But as she turned, she saw the biggest queen Xenomorph of all that had hatched from the crocodile standing right behind her. It lifted Hyatt up and shot her inner jaw right through her stomach. It came out from the other end, obliterating her spine. It threw Hyatt's corpse away and focused its attack on Batman. Batman took up a sword and slashed it, splattering its corrosive blood everywhere. The blood made holes in the sacrificial floor, and Batman could see the lava flowing beneath. Batman took a spear and pierced the Xenomorph in the chest and spilled more blood to cut through the floor. It bit Batman's cape, but he kicked it and got away. As the floor started to give in, Batman held the bat rope that he had secured to the ceiling and climbed up. The floor broke and the Xenomorph fell into the lava. It died a painful death as the lava engulfed it. But there was one Xenomorph left still, the one that Batman had sealed off below. It attacked from above. The Xenomorph tried to bite Batman by shooting its inner jaw, but Batman effectively dodged it. With momentum, it rushed for another bite and bit the bat rope in half. Batman jumped and held the other half tied to the surface. The Xenomorph lost its balance and fell down into the lava and was also destroyed. Batman reached the surface of the ruined complex. As if out of a hellish nightmare, he felt relieved. He had gazed into the face of true horror. He put the spacecraft on fire and waited for the fire to reach the leftover fuel. He wanted the men who had sent Seeley and Hyatt to wonder what went on there, so that they were not able to stitch together what had gone on there. Batman finally made it back to Gotham, and he sat in his cave listening to Barrett's journal. He understood that the aliens were not evil. They acted upon instinct as any other predatory animal would do. Human evil. That was the greatest evil of all, the one Batman faced every night. He agreed with the final thoughts of Barrett. The only way to stop these aliens was to kill them all. And this was not because of what they were, but because of what we humans were, a greedy species full of lust for power and disregard for life. In the end, Batman took the facehugger that he had bagged from the site and threw it into the abyss of the Batcave below, destroying all evidence of the events that had happened. Batman vs. Predator, Round 1, Hunting Season. The crowd went wild as Marcus King and Bull Bersaglio's savage boxing match reached its peak. With a piledriver punch right into Bull's gut, Marcus would have ended the fight. But the bell rang and he had to fight for one more round. While the commentators fixated on how two fight patrons, Alex Yeager and Leo Broden, were about to start their own fight outside the ring, the heavyweight championship resumed. On the other side of the city, Woodrow Pickett was watching the boxing match on the TV when suddenly his dog Satan started barking ominously. Pickett threw Satan out of the trailer. King won the boxing match and the crowd went wild. Suddenly, Pickett heard that Satan's barks were silenced into a whimper. He went out to check on him when 3 laser dots appeared on his chest. Then someone invisible blew his guts out. While Marcus King relaxed at the luxurious Gotham Plaza Hotel and watched the reporters congratulate him. The word "Congratulations, champ" echoed inside the large room, and something in the shadows, an apparition, geared up its claws. It mimicked the reporter on TV and spoke in a muffled techno voice. "Congratulations, champ!" At the sight of the boxing match, Mayor Lieberman introduced Alex Yeager as his campaign sponsor to Bruce. Gordon taunted Yeager's criminal life and left disgruntled. Yeager and Broden got into an altercation and Broden promised to put Yeager in the ground. Although Yeager invited Bruce to his bash and he denied, he later planned to do a recon on them as Batman. As Marcus lay in the bed with his wife Lita at the Gotham Plaza, something trickled on Lita's face. It was blood. She screamed as an invisible assailant broke the penthouse glass ceiling and jumped in. Before Marcus could act, the thing shot a razor-wired net and pinned him into the wall. It slowly cut through Marcus while he screamed. As Lita watched in horror, the killer pulled out Marcus's skull and spine from his body. From Yeager's party, Alfred spotted the bat signal and alerted Bruce. Bruce changed into his Batman garb and rushed towards the Gotham Plaza. Batman, Gordon, and Sarah were baffled to find Marcus's body in that condition. He deduced that Marcus was murdered as a result of Yeager and Broden's enmity. As Batman jumped off into the night, the killer kept tracking him through his heat signature. Batman went to Broden's gym and asked him if he was responsible for Marcus's death. Bull denied and unleashed his boxers on him. Batman took all of them out with ease. He warned Broden of what was about to go down in Gotham and left. The silent creature in transparent camouflage kept tailing him. As Bruce's car passed by, the creature smashed a cat that angrily growled at him. At Wayne Manor, Bruce and Alfred discussed clues from the murder scene. Bruce reported findings: partial footprints fingerprints indicating large boots, sophisticated weaponry, and chemical residues. Processing these details, Bruce asked about the brutality factor, and Alfred noted that taking the skulls and spines suggested something more basic, more predatorial. Batman was immediately called Broden's gym, where all of Broden's boxers were mutilated and their skulls and spinal columns were torn out. There, he met an old blind trainer who was left alive. He said that the killer stood right before him and mimicked a human voice and said, "Open season." As the blind trainer was brought out, something attacked from the roof and blew his heart out. The police shot at the killer but could not see it, let alone kill it. The killer targeted the bat symbol on Batman's chest, but he waited. That was a hunt for later. At the Batcave, Bruce instructed Alfred to investigate junkyards in the East End as a potential lead on their killer. When Alfred asked, Bruce explained he had found rust flakes at the gym, specifically from automobile scrap metal, likely moved by a large electromagnet. Bruce planned on heading to a significant meeting, hinting that the scent of violent power might attract whatever was stalking the city. At Raymond Squire's building, Bruce learned that Raymond had planned a truce meeting between Yeager and Broden. He left and waited outside as Batman. As the meeting started, the killer attacked. It murdered Yeager and Broden's thugs ruthlessly with his automatic razor discs and his laser cannon. It let go of its camouflage and revealed itself. It was a predator, one from the ancient race of intergalactic hunter-killers whose only drive in life was to fight the next better challenger, kill him, and take his skull and spinal column as a trophy. As the predator fixed his target on Batman, Broden blasted it with a shotgun. It fell out the window but quickly turned on its camouflage and fled the scene. As the police came, Batman discovered Predator's green blood. He called Alfred and got the lead of Pickett's salvage junkyard at the East End and headed there. It was unusually quiet and there wasn't even a dog barking. Sneaking up to Pickett's trailer, Batman found that the Predator was tending to its wounds from the shotgun bullet. Batman wore a breather and threw gas pellets in the trailer. The Predator became aware of Batman's presence and threw its homing razor disc. It slashed Batman's leg and he started bleeding. The Predator wielded its Yautja stick and started following the bloody trail. Right then, Batman dropped a load of iron on him that was held by the big electromagnet. Even wounded, the Predator kept on attacking. It aimed a cannon blast at Batman, which he barely dodged and was wounded badly. While Batman almost passed out and lay bleeding, the Predator walked up behind him and pulled him up by his cape, ready to cut him into pieces. Round 2. Hunter, Prey. As the Predator held Batman's neck and was about to sever it using its blades, it mimicked the voices from the TV and hinted about the rules of championship. Batman signaled the Batmobile, his final resort to get out of the situation other than being in a body bag. The Batmobile tore through the iron fencing and startled the Predator. Batman shoved it aside and started running towards the Batmobile. The Predator started shooting the laser cannons at the Batmobile, and it took quite some damage. However, Batman was able to get inside the vehicle. The Predator voiced out an expletive and threw his combistic spear at him. The spear tore through his ribs. Bleeding and hanging on to his life, Batman voiced the only command that came to his mind: home. The Batmobile tore through the winds towards the Batcave as the GCPD arrived and the reporters arrived. The news channels reported Batman leaving the scene wounded. They doubted if he would survive the heavy bleeding. Even Gordon did not make any comments but hoped for the best. Raymond Squire appeared in the TV news and broke that Yeager did not survive the attack from the Predator. Gordon visited Mayor Lieberman that night while he was having dinner with Squire. After Squire left, Lieberman said that he would have Gordon's head if didn't apprehend the killer. Meanwhile, Broden talked to his mother, who came up with the idea of filling up the power vacuum in Gotham now that Yeager was dead, and for that he had to make a deal with Raymond Squire. Broden thanked his mother and left. That night, Raymond Squire planned to leave town, but little did he know that the Predator was waiting for him inside the elevator. As Squire's secretary ran towards the elevator, the door opened slowly and the Predator stood in front of her in a pool of Squire's blood. As Gordon visited Squire's murder scene, he looked up at the bat signal and hoped that Batman would answer his call. When Detective Kandowski stated that Batman was gone, Gordon replied that he would have if he could have, because Batman was no coward. Meanwhile, Broden's mother preached him to become the man who cleaned up Gotham. Days later, Bruce Wayne regained consciousness at the manor while Alfred was wiping off his blood from the floor. He was completely covered in bandages. Alfred told him that he had lost a great deal of blood. There were deep puncture wounds, extensive lacerations, third-degree burns, and severe concussion. Bruce was very lucky to be alive. There was a strange underlying chaos in Gotham. The concrete jungle was now the Predator's hunting ground. It geared up as Broden challenged it over the news and said that he was coming for the killer. His next target was Leonard Broden. The Predator arrived at Broden's mansion. The two guards outside spotted it and started shooting. However, it appeared from behind behind and hacked both to pieces. Then it tore its way through the other guards by blasting them with its laser cannons. The Predator finished off all of Broden's men and then blasted his way into the panic room where Broden and his mother had hauled up. It shoved Broden's mother aside. Then it hacked Broden to death as his mother passed out. Gordon called up Wayne Manor hoping that Bruce Wayne would somehow connect him to Batman. But Alfred replied that Bruce was out of town. Bruce was awake and could hear what was going on. He asked Alfred to give him the remote to the TV. Next morning, Gordon went to have a discussion with Mayor Lieberman. While he discussed with the police captain about lethal force being deployed on the streets, Lieberman went to the washroom. Hearing a sudden scream, they all broke into the washroom and they found that the Predator had brutally slaughtered Lieberman and hung his bloody corpse from the ceiling. Bruce Wayne watched the entire news coverage of the slaughter on TV and asked Alfred to escort him to the manor. Gordon went on camera and pleaded with his friend, his only hope, Batman, for his help. The Predator spread out its hands and stood above a gargoyle. With Batman seemingly dead, Gotham was its jungle to prey upon. Disheartened, Gordon went home as the Predator followed him. Bruce called up Gordon as Batman. He had done his groundwork. He told Gordon that he believed that the killer was from another world, with the agenda of hunting down the most powerful prey. That was why the Predator hunted Batman down and then systematically removed the most powerful people in Gotham. He believed that Gordon was in danger too. Right then, the doorbell rang, and when Gordon opened the door, it was the Predator standing right in front of him. Gordon tried to pull out his gun, but the Predator aimed his laser cannon right at his hand. It came towards Gordon and would have slashed him to pieces if not for Kandowski. Kandowski arrived just in time and shot the Predator multiple times and injured it. She helped Gordon outside, but sadly she was killed by the Predator's laser blast. Gordon fled the scene in his car. Hearing everything from the other end, Bruce could wait no longer. He equipped himself with upgraded techs and wore a visor inside his helm which would help him see, as his sight was still not up to the mark. He drove off in the Batmobile as Alfred watched sadly. At the GCPD building, Gordon and the police troop listened to the news of 6 more officers being slain at his residence. Hearing reports of movement on the rooftop, Gordon and the other policemen rushed there. There was a storm and it was raining torrentially. Someone was standing there in the shadows. As the police readied to shoot at the man standing in front of them, Gordon stopped them. He said that the man was on their side. Gordon switched on the bat signal and Batman stood in front of them in his new mecha bat armor. Gordon asked Batman what was next. Batman replied, "I'm the one it wants. Let it come and get me." Round 3. Blood War. The news broke out on all channels. Batman had returned. Gordon and the SWAT team, accompanied by the National Guard, planned a sweep of the entire city to flush out the Predator the next morning. The Predator heard the news and took the bait. On the GCPD rooftop, Batman told Gordon to ready his men. Gordon warned Batman that he shouldn't attempt to take on the Predator in his condition, but Batman said that there was no other way. A blast of laser cannon came from the skies and obliterated the bat signal. Gordon and the other policemen rushed downstairs, while Batman stood up alone to face the Predator alone. The Predator jumped in its see-through camouflage and mimicked a voice and said, "See you." Batman, now able to locate it through his mecha cowl, replied, "See you too," and threw Predator's spear at it. It slashed through the control panels on Predator's shoulder and broke its camouflage. It took the blade out of its shoulder. They stood face to face with each other. The battle of the century was about to go down. The Predator started punching him, but Batman was ready. He pushed it from the roof. They both fell, but Batman latched onto a flagpole using his grappling rope. The Predator managed to cut its fall by clinging onto the wall with its blade, but as it fell hard, it took heavy damage and was bleeding. It threw its razor disc that cut through the bat rope, but Batman was able to land safely to the ground. The Predator was about to throw another disc, but Batman signaled the Batmobile, and the Batmobile arrived and ran the Predator down. Batman entered the Batmobile. The Predator looked inside the Batmobile and punched its blade into the engine. Right then, Batman commanded, "Go." The Batmobile rushed away with the Predator on the bonnet. He evaded the traffic and switched into the turbo mode of the Batmobile. As the Predator broke through the window, Batman applied the brakes. The Predator was thrown down on the ground. Batman jumped out of the Batmobile and ran into the woods. The Predator followed him in camouflage. Batman threw a switch and suddenly, all the bats from the caves homed in on the ultrasonic beacon. They surrounded the Predator and took out its sight. As it made its way through the bats, it saw Batman standing in front of him, ready for a fight. It leaped towards Batman, but Batman had booby-trapped the ground. The ground collapsed beneath the Predator's steps and it fell below into an iron net in the caves. Batman climbed down below. As the Predator cut its way through the net, Batman instructed Alfred to keep all the automatic weapons primed and ready. But before Batman could act, the Predator got free and hurled itself on Batman, and both of them fell further down into the caves. Batman managed to hang on to one of the cliffs, while the Predator hung onto his cape. Batman unlatched his cape, and the Predator fell below into the abyss. Batman climbed down with ease and found that the Predator, wounded, was now waiting for him. The Predator walked right into another trap and activated a cage made of titanium steel. Batman shot it with a wide-spectrum tranquilizer. It had the capacity to stop 10 rhinos. Batman told the Predator that he had analyzed its blood and it was carbon-based, so the tranquilizer would work on it. The Predator switched on a timer in its handgear. Batman was taken aback. He knew that it was a self-destruct sequence that was initiated in the gear. The Predator was about to blow both of them sky high. Batman immediately opened the cage and cut an electric cable. He approached the Predator's gear and electrocuted it. Both of them were hurt in the process, but the timer was stopped. Batman opened the entrance to the Batcave and walked in. The Predator followed. As he walked down the stairs, Batman shot more tranquilizers into it and made it more dizzy. It fell down the stairs and lay bleeding in front of Batman. Batman opened the Predator's helmet and exposed its fearful face. But the Predator came back to its senses and punched Batman aside. Batman flew and hit the giant penny, which fell on him. A scream of pain escaped him. The Predator walked up to him to kill him. Right then, Alfred appeared and shot the Predator in its chest with one of Thomas Wayne's old guns. Wounded and enraged, the Predator ran and lifted Alfred by his throat. Alfred said that he was not afraid of the big bully. Because he could sense no challenge in Alfred, the Predator dropped him and walked up the stairs. Filled up with tranquilizers, the Predator walked up the stairs towards the manor. It had to get out of there and live to fight another day. Alfred helped Batman out. He opened his armor as it was just dead weight and went in search of a weapon for the final round. From the pool room, Bruce retrieved a baseball bat and climbed out of a broken window. He followed the trail of Predator's blood and walked into the woods fearlessly. As the Predator crawled through the woods, Bruce appeared and said, "Hi, it's me." He hit the Predator with the baseball bat over and over again, but it suddenly started laughing. A Predator ship had arrived in front of them. As the spaceship settled down, an army of Predators got out. The Alpha amongst them instructed, and the other Predators restrained Bruce but did not hurt him. The Alpha gave a sword to the Predator from Gotham. It spoke about understanding the rules, and that it was the loser in the battle. The Predator inserted the blade into its own stomach and committed suicide. The Alpha Predator took the sword out, cleaned it, and then offered it as a trophy to Bruce. Then they carried the dead Predator into the spaceship and left. Bruce stood there, winner of the battle. Alfred walked up from behind. He was awestruck to see what had transpired. He was scared that there was a planet full of Predators out there. Bruce told him that the Predators lived on a cruel alien code of combat where defeat equaled death. Alfred asked Bruce what would happen if they returned. Bruce assured him that they wouldn't, because the Predators had met what lived in Gotham, the Batman. As they walked out of the woods, Bruce lightened the mood by saying that it was a nice night. Alfred pointed out that it was a hunter's moon that shone in the sky. They walked out as the moon was covered by a giant winged bat. Superman Aliens. Round 1. It came from outer space. One fateful night, the LexCorp satellites that were hovering outside Earth raised an alert of an incoming object rushing towards the planet. Everyone at LexCorp was alerted, including Dr. Cheryl Kimball. Clark Kent and Lois Lane were called to LexCorp the next day. They arrived on short notice. Although none of them had met Kimball before, they were not happy that she was heading the space division of LexCorp, the most shady department in America, a private corporation that has programs exceeding even NASA's. They were directed to the rooftop. When they went there, they found Kimball getting ready to board the chopper to go directly to the object where it would crash on Earth. Clark tried to talk sense into Kimball, but Kimball said that it was a massive discovery, and it was a corporate decision to let Lois and Clark tag along so that their entire journey was covered. Kimball disclosed that they had already made contact with the object, as it had been sending incoming probes in the form of garbled, unintelligible radio signals. Clark listened to it via the earphones, and he was bewildered out of his mind. The signals sounded just like Kryptonian. Clark did not get time to decipher the meaning, as the object had already entered Earth's atmosphere. There was only 3 minutes left for the object to splash down into the ocean, and the LexCorp recovery ship was already in place to retrieve it. Suddenly, Clark used his heat vision to malfunction the controls of the helicopter. It had to be landed on a nearby shore. Clark sneaked away in the search of a road and then quickly changed into his Superman garb. With the anticipation that the ship may be from Krypton, Clark tried to stop it in its path and prevent it from burning burning up. He saw some markings that could be Kryptonian. He was able to break its fall, but it drowned into the sea. Superman broke off the main component and flew up with it. He laid it carefully on the rescue boat. He touched it and opened a shaft, and there was an instant telepathic contact. The object started humming with power. Through the probe, Superman saw a plant much like Krypton. The people of the planet devised a final measure of survival and built a dome outside their city. When the planet was destroyed, the city inside the dome detached and floated in space with minimal resources. He got a location and directions, but right then the device lost power and the probe stopped. Kimball walked in and started questioning Superman. Superman revealed that it was a distress buoy sent by a city that needed help, and he should be the one to reach out to the city, not anyone else. In the next 2 days, Superman was ready for a journey to the city with the help of LexCorp's shuttle. He just had to bring back any technology that he could get his hands on. Lois was to cover the story from the space station itself. During his journey, Superman's mind wandered off to the time when he met someone of his own kind from a different universe. Those Kryptonians had destroyed their Earth. The Lex Luthor of their Earth set them loose on our Earth. Superman had no way other than exposing them to the Krypton native to their universe. The evil Kryptonians died a painful death. Superman did not want that to happen again. Killing those Kryptonians was the worst thing that he ever did. Although those evil beings were controlled by the Time Trapper, Superman's action put him into a state of mental trauma and depression, and he had promised to never resort to killing again, no matter how deadly the threat was. Superman radioed Kimball and told her that he had arrived. He got down from his shuttle. He found out that the domed city had its artificial atmosphere, but he was weaker there as he was far away from any sun. The city was deserted and looked dead. Superman used his X-ray vision to investigate and found most of the entrances closed up with rubbles, and outside there were claw marks. He found a bus that tried to crash its way through the dome. Superman entered the bus and saw blood splattered everywhere. Inside one of the bogies, he found humanoids that were still alive. Superman gathered the last 4 survivors in his shuttle and directed it towards Earth, leaving himself stranded on the city. He found a facehugger, but it was dead. Superman dug his way in from outside the dome. Underneath, he found a formation of hundreds of ovomorphs. He was unsure of what they were. As he flew by, a xenomorph crawled out from underneath. Superman investigated the viscous xenomorph blood that he found on site when suddenly a xenomorph attacked. Superman tried to clear it and reason with it. He told the xenomorph that he was no threat, but the xenomorph charged at him with his claws, and Superman's chest was slashed as he was getting weaker with the absence of any sun. Thinking that it was trying to protect its territory, Superman pushed it aside. As it was not listening to reason, Superman punched it away, but it attacked him from behind with its tail. Superman held open its jaw, but it shot its inner jaw and hit Superman on the forehead and drew blood. Superman punched it and its acid blood spurted out and directly fell on Superman's eyes. Superman was temporarily turned blind from the pain and tried to clear out, but the xenomorph kept attacking. He tried punching it aside, but the xenomorph lifted him up and was about to tear his heart out. Right then, a lady spoke up in Kryptonian and shot the xenomorph away. Superman punched it, and the lady burned it with a flamethrower. She asked Superman to follow her. Superman told her that he was a solar collector and stronger than the others. Inside a hub, she gave Superman a blindfold to stop his eyes from getting irritated from sunlight. The lady said that the name of the city was Argo City. Superman introduced himself as Cal, and the lady told that her name was Kara. Meanwhile, in the shuttle bound for Earth, a chestbuster blasted its way out of the chest of a survivor. Round 2, Warbound. The shuttle sent to Earth by Superman suddenly lost all contact with the Lexsat, and it was on a collision course with the Lexsat. Kimball took over the control from her subordinate and brought the shuttle in. When they opened the hatch, they were scared to the core to find one of the survivors had his chest ripped from within. While they planned on carrying the survivors who were still alive to the medbay, Lois decided to investigate the ship. There, she discovered a slimy substance. From a distance, a xenomorph hid in the shadows and kept watch on all of them. Meanwhile, in Argo City, Kara took Superman to a lab and applied medicine in his eyes, which would help him see properly again. She said that Argo was already a dying city, as all its supplies and energy core were depleted with the years in space. Their society was on the brink of collapse due to a lack of raw materials needed for repairs. The population was starving and infrastructure was crumbling. The ruling council of Argo faced the risk of a revolt from the starving populace. However, hope was revived when they spotted an approaching space freighter. It crashed near the dome. Some explorers went to the fighter with the hope of salvaging any technology that would help them survive. Inside, they found a cryo chamber with a queen xenomorph frozen inside it. Believing it dead, they left it there. Years later, some scavengers discovered the abandoned freighter and, hearing rumors about a beast on board, hoped to find something edible. They activated the heating unit on the ship, which inadvertently hatched the Queen, leading to the release of her eggs. This event marked the beginning of the end for Argo City. The creatures from the eggs, the facehuggers, could adapt to any environment and breed indefinitely as long as they had enough hosts. The creatures could start small, find a face to latch onto, and then impregnate a host with an embryo that eventually bursted out, causing gruesome deaths. Superman had witnessed one of these creatures near some survivors, and he remembered that he had unknowingly sent the survivors to Earth, marking it for doom. On Lexsat, the doctors and scientists struggled with one of the survivors who had started feeling sick. Suddenly, his chest burst open and a xenomorph jumped out. Everyone was caught aback, but Kimball thought that given its small size, it did not pose any major threat. Superman kept running frantically towards the box where the other survivors of Argo were hauled up. He had to find a way to return back to Earth. Using a good deal of his power left, Superman flew Kara towards the box. At Lexsat, as one of the scientists pried open the cockpit computer from the shuttle and got ready to learn what it had recorded, the grown-up xenomorph attacked. It impaled him with its razor tail. Witnessing the gruesome killing, Lois was rendered speechless out of fear as the xenomorph approached towards her. At the box, Superman and Kara found that a horde of xenomorphs had attacked the remaining survivors. Superman picked up a firearm to fight them, but he threw it away when he remembered what killing someone had done to him. One of the xenomorphs started strangling Kara with its tail, but Superman severed the tail at the spine. Meanwhile, Lois finally got her strength back and started running from the xenomorph. She knocked on the doors, but Kimball did not let her in. Lois dodged the xenomorph and jumped into the shuttle and closed the hatch. The xenomorph latched onto the hatch and started hitting it with its head in order to break it. Lois somehow managed to open the airlock and the shuttle started getting pulled into the vacuum of space. Kimball wanted to keep the creature inside, so she closed the airlock remotely. Lois was saved, but the xenomorph was hurled into the vastness of space. Meanwhile, Superman and Kara kept fighting the xenomorph horde at the box. He threw a belt of grenades on the xenomorphs and cleared the area. Superman then took Kara and the one survivor that was left and jumped out of the box area to the top of a nearby building. But alas, the final survivor was no longer alive. As Kara slept, heartbroken, Superman stood watch. He scanned the entire city and found out that it was completely infested with the xenomorphs. As the xenomorphs pierced the dome, the fuel lines ruptured, and the entire tower got blown to bits. Both Superman and Kara fell down. Superman tried to find Kara in the rubble frantically, but he was attacked by the horde. With his powers waning, Superman tried to fight them off, but they overwhelmed him, and Superman lost his senses. Superman gained consciousness in the ovomorph chamber where he was being held in the resin structures. The Queen Xenomorph was standing in front of him. One of the ovomorphs hatched and a facehugger jumped out and placed itself on Superman's face. As Superman struggled, the facehugger placed an embryo inside Superman, and the Queen Alien watched. Round 3, the final stand. At Lexsat, Lois rushed towards the medbay where the two final survivors from Argo City were quarantined. Kimball and the doctor watched as the survivors writhed in pain and their chests got swollen up. Kimball wanted the xenomorphs at any cost to be used as weapons, but Lois intervened. She understood that if the xenomorphs somehow got to Earth, they would destroy it completely. As the chestbursters ate their way out of the survivor's chest, Lois entered the quarantine room, doused them with an inflammable spray, and put them on fire. Kimball was enraged with her actions and pushed Lois down. She knew that there was a fully grown xenomorph on board, and in no way she was letting it get out of her hands. She took out a gun and was about to shoot Lois from stopping her further. Meanwhile, at Argo City, Superman regained consciousness and found the facehugger lying below, lifeless. As Superman struggled, Kara appeared with a flamethrower to help him. Superman was surprised to see Kara using a transport unit and asked if she developed the technology, to which she explained it was found in the wreckage from the alien ship. Kara mentioned the unit's limited range and power, but assured it could transport them back to the main unit, prompting Superman to urge her to hurry. But they were not able to get distance from the xenomorphs. Suddenly, an idea struck Kara. She understood from the markings on Superman's face that he was infested, so she pointed her flamethrower towards him and ordered the xenomorphs to stay back, or else she would burn Superman. The xenomorphs, including the Queen, crawled back. Kara exclaimed that Superman was carrying a queen inside of him, and the xenomorphs won't let any harm come to him. So Superman placed laid hostage to Kara while they ran away. There, he discovered that Kara too was infested while she was searching for Superman. Superman told her that since she was Kryptonian like him, she would also get powers once Superman was able to take her to Earth. But Kara said that she was not a Kryptonian. She revealed that her Argo city was from the planet Autoline, which was named after the Argo on Krypton. After Krypton was destroyed, a wise traveler known only as the Cleric had brought 100,000 survivor Kryptonians to their Argo. The survivors died due to their genetic link to the planet except for the Cleric. It was through his teachings that Argo had adapted the Kryptonian ways of life, as well as the Kryptonese language. Superman also told her that Jor-El had broken his genetic link to Krypton and had sent him to Earth. He was disheartened that he was again rendered as the last survivor of Krypton, but it didn't have to be that way. Superman wanted to save Kara by taking her to Earth, however possible. Kara gave Superman a childhood photo of herself and asked him to protect it even if Kara didn't make it. As the atmosphere of Argo leaked through the breach, Superman and Kara planned to go to the Xenomorph freighter to find a way to escape. They wore spacesuits and drove towards the freighter in a vehicle that they found. As the vehicle was surrounded by the horde of Xenomorphs, Superman and Kara ejected in a sky cycle and stormed towards the freighter. Superman used his powers to slowly levitate himself and Kara down into the caves. But what they did not know was that there was another horde of Xenomorphs waiting there for them. Meanwhile, at Lexsat, Lois kicked the gun out of Kimball's hands. As they fought, bickering about their ideals, a Xenomorph attacked Kimball. Although hesitant, Lois was not amongst the ones who would stand by when someone's life was in danger. She picked up Kimball's gun and started shooting at the alien. The Xenomorph stepped back, but its blood from the bullet wound cut through Kimball's hands. Lois and Kimball escaped and locked themselves in one of the rooms. Meanwhile, Kara kept Superman at gunpoint and walked inside the spaceship as the Xenomorphs kept at bay. Inside, they found an ovomorph chamber and encountered another Queen Xenomorph. Angered by losing her whole planet, Kara used her flamethrower to destroy all the ovomorphs present in the chamber. They ran further inside. Kara requested Superman to use his powers to scan the entire ship and find at least one hope of leaving Argo City. Superman concentrated and pulled in his last ounce of powers to enable his X-ray vision. He discovered 2 transportation booths, a power core, and 2 life pods, all functional. Superman immediately told Kara to follow him as he rushed towards their final hope. 2 scientists aboard the Lexsat planned to travel towards Earth when suddenly a Xenomorph attacked one of them from above. It tore the scientist in half and threw the lower half of his body at the gyro and caused it to malfunction. As the Lexsat lost control, it started getting pulled towards Earth due to gravity. The final explosion in Argo City decimated the dome permanently, as Superman and Kara could only stand and watch helplessly. Another Xenomorph attacked Kara. This time, Superman took up the flamethrower and burned it down, but he assured Kara that he still held on to his principle of not killing sentient beings. Upon examining the life pod, Superman found that the jettison tube was jammed. The only way to force the pods into flight was to blow up the ship and use the force from the blast. Superman planned to go and cause an explosion in the power core, but Kara stopped her. She said that Superman was the only one who knew the path to Earth, so he had to prepare the ship. Superman told her once the power core was primed, she had to jump into one of the transporters, and Superman would beam her into the pod. They embraced and went their way. As Superman entered the pod, a gut-wrenching pain from inside incapacitated him. The chestburster was about to rip him open and come out. Kara primed the core and got into the transporter booth. Superman, even in pain, tweaked the controls to transport the Xenomorph out of Kara's body, but before he could beam Kara in, the Queen Xenomorph attacked and decimated the booth. As the Queen attacked Kara, the core exploded along with the rest of Argo, throwing Superman's pod into space. Heartbroken that he could not save Kara, Superman broke into tears. As the pod went into hyperdrive, it jumped and materialized in front of Earth's sun. Slowly but steadily, he got his powers back. He kept pushing his innards and was finally able to regurgitate the Xenomorph out of his body. He flew with lightning speed and brought the Lexsat back in orbit. Then he went inside and stopped the last Xenomorph from killing Lois and Kimball. However, he did not resort to killing the Xenomorph as he preferred sticking to his ideals. But Kimball did not think the same. She understood what the Xenomorph could do if it ever reached Earth. She used a welder and vaporized the Xenomorph where it stood. In the end, Superman showed Lois Kara's photo and mourned her. However, unbeknownst to him, Kara was still alive and had escaped into space in a life pod. Superman vs. Predator, Round 1, Jungle Nights. The story unraveled in a place called La Jungla de las Sombras, which meant the Jungle of Shadows. It was a hostile and dangerous environment, avoided by most people. Those who did venture there accidentally often ended up regretting their decision. There, a group of scientists went on an unknown expedition under the supervision of xenobiologist Casey Trebor and physicist Marla Rollins. Trebor complained about the harsh conditions of their jungle expedition, particularly the mosquitoes. Rollins urged him to stop complaining, pointing out the potential for a significant scientific discovery. She explained that STR Labs funded the expedition based on credible rumors, emphasizing that the inhospitable and unexplored jungle could hold extraordinary findings. The locals with them suddenly discovered a big spaceship hidden amidst the trees. Trebor repeatedly reminded her that he carried dynamites and could use those to blow the ship up, but Rollins stopped him. She pointed out that the ship could contain treasures, technologies, artifacts, and ideas, more than they could ever imagine. As one of the expeditionists cut down the undergrowth, they discovered human skulls and spines entwined with it. Rollins contemplated that the dynamite might come handy. Meanwhile, at Metropolis, a group of thugs were escaping in an armored van after stealing a good amount of plutonium. The police had closed off the road, but they were no match. The thugs shot at the police cars. One of them lost control and fell from the bridge, but Superman caught it mid-air and stopped it from crashing on the civilians. Then he broke through the bridge and apprehended the thugs. After his caper, he flew to the Daily Planet rooftop and changed into Clark Kent and met Lois. Coming down to the office, Ron told them about Star Labs' discovery in Central America. They had sent out a call for Superman. Clark immediately kissed Lois and left. Not giving up, Lois went to Perry's room and told him that she wanted to cover the exclusive of the discovery in person. In the jungle, Trebor and Rollins bickered about abandoning the expedition, but Rollins wanted to get her hands upon alien knowledge. Right at that moment, Superman arrived. He scanned the ship for any booby traps and found out that the self-destruct trigger might not work. However, when he tried to open the hatch, a series of microbursts hurt him. Superman took some time to find out that the entire spaceship was inert and there was nothing inside to get hurt, so he welcomed the group in. However, as he opened the door, a signal reached a mothership outside Earth, which started progressing towards the location of the jungle. As Superman and the team looked at the interior of the ship, a group of soldiers arrived to capture the intruders. Superman emerged outside and tried to intimidate them by lifting a vehicle. However, he was taken by surprise when he started feeling weak and had to drop it. He used his heat ray to detonate a military truck and helped everyone escape the site. The soldiers called up and talked to a certain Mr. Ward, assuring him that they would take Superman out of the picture. On their way, Trebor told Superman that the microbursts must have been laced with some virus which could affect the Kryptonian physiology. Rollins assured that they would search for the cure in the ship once they reported the attack. However, their path was blocked by a deep cavern. Machu revealed the history of the place to them. In the past, foreign soldiers had arrived in his land to wage a secret war without explaining their reasons. In their eagerness to kill each other, they had missed the arrival of a monstrous figure from the sky, a devil warrior who had come to hunt the hunters. It was a demon who fought with unholy weapons, such as blades that cut through metal like fire and arrows that seemed to come from the sun. The warrior, in honor or mockery of ancient gods, kept trophies of blood and bone. Eventually, only a single soldier remained, a rare champion with enough faith and wisdom to understand and challenge the sky creature. The beast, finding it impossible to win, vanished like the wind and hid from its former prey. It was a game of cats and mice, a contest that only one side could survive. Ultimately, the soldier triumphed through cunning and skill, defeating the demon. In its shame, the monster summoned fire from hell to consume its own body. That was why its bones did not remain. Machu's people feared that this might cause the demon to return. Trebor deciphered that the demon was the pilot of the spaceship and the hellfire was the ship's self-destruct system that malfunctioned due to broken wires. Right then, Lois arrived in a helicopter, but the soldiers saw it from afar and launched a rocket towards it to bring it down. With his waning powers, Superman jumped to help and brought the chopper down. Meanwhile, the soldiers surrounded everyone. They chained up Superman and took them towards the spaceship. In the other end of the jungle, a jaguar was blown to bits by laser rays and a predator walked out of the cave. They reached a cave shrine with supposedly Mayan inscriptions on the walls. General Skane told them the entire tribe that lived there had vanished within a month. Inside, they met Solomon Ward, the person in charge of the organization named Better Tomorrow. Ward explained that the organization's goal was to remove obstacles preventing humanity from reaching its potential. This involved eliminating elements that drained society of time and resources needed to develop perfect beings. To achieve this, the machine from the cave shrine would be triggered to release particles into the atmosphere, which would irradiate the planet's water supply through subsequent rainfall. He even showed them how the water killed people who were less genetically blessed. They tried to escape, but Superman had lost his powers and could not help them. Eventually, they were caged. The soldiers went to the side of the ship and suddenly something started attacking them. The invisible enemy killed the soldiers mercilessly. And then, from the thin air, the Predator switched off its cloaking device and stood tall for its next hunt. Round 2. I Own the Hunt. Superman and the others were in a cage, except for Lois. While the soldiers discussed amongst themselves about Superman's condition, Trebor asked for a hairpin from Rollins. Meanwhile, Ward described to Lois his vision of purifying the human race, and he wanted Lois to endorse it as a reporter and narrate the documentary. When Lois denied, Ward ordered her to be thrown in a cage. While Lois was being escorted, Trebor opened Superman's shackles and he took a soldier hostage. Trebor took his gun and they threatened the other soldiers to set them free. Then they locked the soldiers in. Ward planned to integrate the spaceship's energy pod with his seeding generator to fasten his process, while Skane planned to kill all the escapees. Walking through the woods, Superman requested the rest of the people to move on. He had to go to the starship to find a cure for the virus that had rendered him powerless. When he reached the starship, he found the bodies of the soldiers who were guarding the ship. There were skulls of the soldiers gathered in a heap. Suddenly, there was a blast behind Superman that took him by surprise. Trebor and the others heard the sound of vehicles and hid, but Rollins took a gun and alerted the soldiers. She held her fellow men at gunpoint, ready to give them up to Skane. Superman turned around and saw the Predator standing right in front of him, primed for combat. Superman attacked first with a log, but unfazed from the wound, the Predator started shooting at Superman with the shoulder blaster. Superman dodged the blasts and hid inside the spaceship. He was surprised to see that the Predator ran away inside the bush. A timer started inside the spaceship, counting down. Superman stormed outside and the spaceship was blown to bits. The blast caught the attention of the soldiers who were taking the prisoners back thanks to Rollins. They came back to the site and found Superman gathering himself back from the blast. One of the soldiers hit him with a gun, but Superman incapacitated the soldier with a punch and threw a car at them to scare them away. He ran into the jungle feeling weaker than ever while the Predator tracked him. Inside the cave, Ward and his team of scientists could not make the machine work. Although suspicious, Ward let Rollins help his team out. Outside, the ComSat dish was blown to pieces by the Predator. On the other hand, Superman swiftly took down a few guards, intimidating one into surrendering his firearm with a single steely glare. Inside, Lois Lane had somehow managed to escape her captors and reach the radio room, desperately trying to call for help. Her hopes were dashed when Skane spotted her and challenged her to a hand-to-hand fight. Lois fought valiantly, but Skane's pepper spray incapacitated her. Just when it seemed all was lost, Trebor intervened, knocking Skane out cold and saving the day. Lois and Trebor devised a plan to reach the surface and alert civilization about the impending danger. As they made their way, Trebor's sharp eyes caught sight of the Predator, already inside the facility. Meanwhile, Superman faced off against Rollins and Ward, only to hear Ward command his soldiers to kill the other prisoners. With no time to waste, Superman flew to the prisoners' location, shielding them from a hail of bullets. Though he managed to block and catch a few, some still found their mark, as even he struggled to move fast enough. Simultaneously, Skane and his men confronted the Predator, who swiftly decapitated two soldiers with its razor blade. Despite his injuries, Superman summoned all his willpower and strength to break open the cages, subdue the soldiers, and escort the prisoners to safety. Skane engaged the Predator alone, determined to bring it down. Despite his best efforts, the Predator overpowered him and detonated a fuel tanker, incapacitating all the soldiers. The Predator fled, but Skane was certain it would return. Meanwhile, Rollins had repaired the seeding machine and ensured a seamless power flow. With a nod from Ward, she initiated the test. As Superman, Trebor, and Lois escorted the prisoners to a nearby village, the machine roared to life. They realized it was only a matter of hours before the seeding began, threatening countless human lives. With no other option, Superman turned back towards the site in order to stop Ward from carrying out his deadly plans. Round 3, Jungle Wars. The Predator that was sent to oversee the destruction of the entire military base and the spaceship geared up for combat. Survival was an option for it, but failure was not. Sweating and in pain, Superman watched from afar as Skane and his men were guarding the cave. He knew that he could not take on the guards in his condition. Just then, Trebor showed up behind him and offered to show him another way into the mountain stronghold. Superman agreed to the offer and let Trebor lead the way. Meanwhile, inside, Rollins expressed her doubts about the genetic cleanup that she inadvertently initiated, but she was eventually brought around by Ward. Superman and Trebor went in through a utility conduit, while on the other side, the Predator cloaked itself and attacked the soldiers guarding the stronghold. It impaled one through the chest with its hand blades, and then it killed the other two with his combistic spear. It killed the last one with its razor disc and slowly walked inside. While on their way, Superman said that he could clearly see that Trebor was not just a doctor. He urged Trebor to share his classified information. Trebor said that he was once a part of an elite team, researching theories of an alien race who had been using Earth as a hunting ground for many decades. On the first day, he fell down and fractured his tibia and was left incapacitated at the camp. That night, he heard screams and crawled out and saw a Predator standing right in front of him. He had already killed all the soldiers. It put its laser target on Trebor but left him alive, as it did not see Trebor as a threat. Trebor explained to Superman that the Predator attacking them did not arrive for the same reason. It had arrived to destroy the stranded spaceship and the cave shrine. Superman thanked Trebor for his help and said he should be able to take up the further actions. While Superman hid and did recon on the soldiers, the prisoner sneaked up on Trebor. He shot at the Predator, but Skane stopped him and pointed his gun at Trebor. Superman used his waning strength to drop a beam at the soldiers. Detecting Skane as a threat, the Predator launched a shot at him, which both Skane and Trebor dodged. The Predator approached but did not harm Trebor, as he did not see him as a threat. Meanwhile, Superman incapacitated the soldiers and moved on. Skane took on the Predator alone, but the Predator hurt him with his razor disc. Skane won the first round, but the Predator launched his hand blades and wounded Skane fatally. Before Superman could stop Ward and Rollins, the Predator attacked him, and they engaged in a ferocious battle. While Superman fought the Predator, Trebor knocked out Rollins and carried her away. Superman punched an old wall with his waning power and made a roof fall on the Predator. He then locked it inside a cage. Trebor spoke to Superman, convincing him that the Predator was humanity's only hope. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Superman broke open the cell. The Predator met his gaze, seemingly understanding the silent pact between him and Trebor, and led the way. They descended into the generator pit as Ward attempted a desperate assault. The Predator swiftly beheaded Ward with a razor disc and activated the time bomb on its wrist. Superman tried to intervene, but Trebor held him back. The Predator tossed a vial of serum to Superman, the cure for the virus that had been weakening him. With a final triumphant stance, the Predator stood chest high as the stronghold exploded. Superman and Trebor barely escaped the blast, while the Predator's spaceship also self-destructed. Superman took the cure, feeling his strength return. Days later, in their apartment, Superman and Lois discussed the recent events. He assured her that he would be back to full strength soon. Lois, puzzled, asked why the Predator saved his life. Superman replied that it considered him a worthy opponent, but the lingering question remained in both their minds. What if there were more Predators out there? Batman, Aliens 2, Round 1, Old Friends. The year was 1928. A man had set up a time bomb inside the icy depths of Mount Erebus, Antarctica. He extended his hand toward an old professor, urging him to leave together. The professor, however, was delusional and screamed accusations, claiming he knew what the man had done to the others. In a fit of fear and rage, the professor struck the man with a lamp and fled deeper into the cave. The man pursued, only to encounter a xenomorph. He fired at the creature, wounding it, but as he turned to escape, he faced a horde of xenomorphs blocking his path. Trapped and outnumbered, he couldn't escape before the bomb detonated, seemingly obliterating everyone within the cave. 70 years had passed in Gotham City, but secrets have a way of surfacing when least expected. One crisp morning at a DeCristo construction site, workers toiled away on what they thought was a routine excavation. Their tools struck something solid beneath the earth, revealing an old iron door sealed shut. Stephen DeCristo was called to oversee the preliminary investigation. The air was thick with anticipation as he ordered the vault to be forcibly opened. As the heavy doors creaked open, they revealed a treasure trove of scientific machinery, relics from a bygone era, coated in decades of dust. But amidst the machinery lay a chilling discovery: a desiccated corpse, eerily preserved, with a gaping hole where its chest once was. Before the workers could process the macabre scene, from the shadows of the vault, a figure emerged, a white xenomorph. With a sudden violent burst, it sprang from its long-forgotten prison, leaving a trail of corpses corpses in its wake. Batman jumped into the night skies thinking about how DeCristo was desperate to get his foothold back on Gotham, so much that he even tied knots with the criminal blockbuster. However, he didn't deserve to go out like he did. Batman arrived at the grisly murder scene where Gordon and his men had already initiated an investigation. Inside the vault, they found another body, ancient and eerily preserved. Batman deduced that the corpse had been there for 70 years and that something had violently burst from its chest. He told Gordon that the vault was designed to keep something trapped inside. It was also clear that something important had been taken from the vault. Suddenly, Gordon gasped in bewilderment as he discovered a grotesque xenomorph nest made of bones and blood. Batman noticed a journal among the ruins and assured Gordon that he would investigate further. Back in the Batcave, Bruce Wayne recalled his previous encounter with the aliens in South America. With memories flooding back, he began reading the journal, determined to uncover the secrets it held. And in the tunnels, a facehugger implanted a human being. In 1928, a determined professor sought to prove his counter-Darwinian theory that humans were akin to gods. Hearing of an unidentified landmass in Antarctica, he journeyed there with his students and discovered a spaceship entombed in ice. Inside, his students were implanted with alien embryos, and xenomorphs violently burst from them, which the professor saw as a sign of evolution. Desiring transformation himself, the professor was thwarted when one student, Gregory Hudson, detonated the entire site. Despite this, the professor escaped to Gotham, bringing with him the xenomorph eggs he had seized, continuing his experiments in secret. Batman alerted Gordon that the xenomorph had 4 eggs that would start hatching and growing at an accelerated rate. With disease control from Atlanta sweeping through the city, the winter in full effect, Batman looked all through the city for any sign of the alien, but he couldn't imagine that a xenomorph would attack the 9th Street subway right beneath his feet. When Batman arrived at the subway, there was a trail of lifeless bodies. Switching on his heat signature reader, Batman went into the tunnels. Suddenly, a xenomorph attacked him. He took out a flare and injured it with fire, but it didn't stop. It jumped on Batman and pinned him to the ground. Batman used his grappling gun to pierce its spine and bring down a chandelier on the xenomorph, but the alien's blood ignited the thermite in his belt. He quickly opened his utility belt and threw it at the alien, causing a detonation. Gordon and his men rushed in. Batman brought the 3 people who were already impregnated by a facehugger, and somewhere in the tunnels, the xenomorph slowly slithered into the darkness. Round 2. New enemies. The 3 infected men were rushed to the hospital where skilled surgeons meticulously removed and contained the xenomorphs from their bodies, saving their lives. Having faced the alien threat before, Batman immediately suggested euthanizing the captured creatures. However, Dr. Catherine Fortune and Dr. Auden from the Federal Medical Emergency intervened, unwilling to take orders from a man dressed as a bat. She insisted on containing and studying the xenomorphs. Despite Batman and Gordon's strong arguments about the necessity of eliminating the threat, Catherine refused to budge. Just then, a xenomorph violently broke through the ceilings. Batman quickly ordered everyone to get to safety and charged forward to confront the alien menace. Batman shattered the glass window and lunged at the creature, grappling it to the ground as he ordered everyone to move. He skillfully dodged its snapping inner jaw but was hurled away by the xenomorph's sheer strength. The creature seized the juvenile xenomorphs in their containers and bolted for the roof. Gordon, Catherine, and Auden rushed to the rooftop, guns blazing at the retreating xenomorph. They soon realized it was more focused on protecting its young. Auden tased the creature, seemingly incapacitating it, but as he approached, the xenomorph's razor-sharp tail sliced through his chest. It charged at Catherine, but Batman intervened, engaging in a fierce hand-to-hand battle before pushing the creature off the rooftop, himself plummeting with it. As they fell, Batman knew that hitting the streets at such speed would splatter the alien's acid blood everywhere, causing catastrophic damage. He quickly fired his grappling hook and secured the xenomorph with a rope. However, the creature released a juvenile that spewed acid, severing the batrope. The xenomorph crawled across the building under a hail of police gunfire, one juvenile perishing in a blood-curdling scream as bullets tore through it. As the mother xenomorph turned, Batman doused it with a gas pellet, but it managed to escape. Bleeding and exhausted, Batman lay on the rooftop while Catherine called her team, preparing for stage 2 of their desperate fight against the alien menace. In the Batcave, Bruce carried on his investigation. He had doused the alien with radium gel and was tracking it via a Wayne Tech satellite, but it did not show up anywhere in the radar. Bruce understood that it may have gone underground. Barbara called up right then and informed him that Catherine and Auden's backgrounds were completely fake. Catherine was a local girl and Auden was a bioweapon specialist. Bruce told her to keep digging and refused to ask Tim or Dick for help. He slowly drifted off into slumber where he dreamt of his entire family being infected by facehuggers. Then he saw the ghastly sight of a chest burster coming out of his chest. His nightmare broke from an alert from the Bat computer. The alien had resurfaced, and its target was Arkham. A Xenomorph had already left a trail of bodies at Arkham. In his cell, Two-Face whistled at the creature, luring it to the window. As it drew close, Two-Face blew off its face, killing it instantly. Batman arrived in an armored suit, wielding Freeze's cold gun. He ordered Two-Face to drop the weapon, but before he could, another full-grown Xenomorph attacked from above. Empowered by his strength-enhancing exoskeleton, Batman overpowered the creature, pummeling it before freezing it solid with the cold gun. When Two-Face attempted to shoot Batman, he swiftly froze Two-Face's hands, then froze all the cell gates to prevent any escapes. Hearing screams from the infirmary, Batman rushed over, only to find it littered with dead bodies. To his shock, he saw a Xenomorph drenched in human blood, being petted by Catherine. Following its instincts, the Xenomorph lunged at Batman, who froze it in midair, shattering it into pieces upon impact. Catherine went hysterical, blaming Batman for destroying the path to human evolution. She advanced, her hands crushing machinery and cutting herself. As her blood dripped onto the floor, it sizzled with the same acidic effect as a Xenomorph's. With terrifying strength, she punched Batman, sending him crashing into the wall and knocking him unconscious. Inside, Catherine was conducting experiments on the inmates. She called her team to arrange for the cleanup crew and alerted them that she was bringing in a live one to the lab. Round 3. War Games. Batman woke up inside a drilling rig, which had been capped off after its use. He went to the next compartment, finding an array of dead bodies. There were Navy SEALs, Russian Spetsnaz, British Special Boat Service, and French Foreign Legion, all ranked amongst world's fighting elites. Batman deduced that some of the victims were killed before, and some were still fresh. They were overpowered, shot and killed brutally, with traces of red acidic blood. Meanwhile, from the other end, Catherine ordered her team to deploy her new bioweapons. Batman was bewildered to find that Catherine had created hybrid soldiers by splicing the DNA of the villains from Arkham with the Xenomorph DNA. They were Harvey Dent, Pamela Isley, Victor Fries, Jonathan Crane, and the Joker, and they were being ordered by Catherine from the other end of the comm device. As Batman tried to escape, the Dent hybrid attacked him, but Batman was able to incapacitate it with a super-enhanced punch. While Batman was trying to run, the Joker hybrid attacked from behind and inserted its claws into his shoulders. Batman headbutted it and threw it down. Upon Catherine's order, the Dent hybrid shot at him and the Joker hybrid spewed acid, but Batman ducked and the bullets hit the Joker hybrid instead, instantly killing it. The Joker hybrid's acid perforated Dent hybrid's gun and it blew in its hands, also killing it. Catherine screamed in anger. She ordered the Ivy hybrid to take the lead and eliminate Batman. Batman frantically worked to tweak the derrick, aiming to ignite the flammable fumes and blow the rig sky high. Before he could finish, the Ivy hybrid attacked, its inner jaw snapping dangerously close. Batman chokeslammed the creature and, speaking into the hybrid's camera, threatened Catherine, promising that he was coming for her. With a swift move, he hurled the Ivy hybrid onto the Fries hybrid. Suddenly, the Crane hybrid lunged at him but was impaled by iron beams dislodged by the corrosive gun of the Fries hybrid. Seizing the moment, Batman cleared the remaining hybrids and fired at the rig cap, setting off a massive explosion that incinerated the hybrids. He narrowly escaped, surviving by the skin of his teeth as the rig erupted into a fiery inferno behind him. Catherine ordered an evacuation of the non-essential personnel at the rig. Batman made his way to the main control room and found more containers filled with hybrids that were not born yet. Catherine came inside with her army and told Batman that those hybrids were all her children. Catherine said that she represented a far-sighted global cabal of politicians, industrialists, and religious leaders, all covertly working together for a common cause, to find a way to combat the superhumans, a superhero deterrent. She chose the traumatized souls like Dent, Isley, and Fries for splicing, as they had overcome all odds and grew super from all the challenges thrown at them. They evolved as superhumans. Batman asked her how she did it because the Gotham containment unit was unearthed just days ago. Catherine revealed that she was one of the students who went with Professor Gollins to Antarctica. She was infected, but the juvenile alien did not hatch as Catherine had caught dry leprosy during her travel. After surviving Antarctica, the parasite inside her body strengthened her from inside and made her age slowly. Since then, she had been working for elite societies and dedicating her life to human evolution, splicing her own DNA with that of other humans, as she was a host to a queen xenomorph. As the containers burst open from the explosions, Catherine's soldiers fired at Batman with armor-piercing explosives but hit a containment unit instead. A Croc hybrid broke out, imposing and deadliest of all. Catherine stood in front of it, claiming that it must recognize her as its mother, but Batman warned her that Croc wasn't driven by trauma like the others, so its hybrid would be driven only by primal instincts, but it was too late. The Croc hybrid snapped its inner jaw and perforated Catherine's head. The soldiers opened fire, but the Croc hybrid decapitated them using its razor tail. There was a huge blast and the hybrid caught most of the fire as Batman dodged it. The hybrid pulled Batman by the leg, and they both fell into the fiery pit. As it jumped towards Batman, he saw an opening below. Batman jumped towards the opening. He switched open his cape that flew back and wrapped the hybrid's head, blocking its sight. Batman went through the opening, although badly cut, but the hybrid got stuck. Batman fell into the water. He gathered himself and looked up. Attack helicopters had arrived to wipe off all evidence at the rig. They fired and decimated the rig. Batman floated and witnessed the destruction helplessly, but his mind was at peace that at least Catherine's helpers had chosen the better devil over a plague that could end humankind. Superman, Aliens 2, God War. Round 1. So says the source. On Apokolips, a bunch of Darkseid scientists held a spaceship in the vicinity of the planet under an acquisition beam. They planned to crash it on the planet and learn about its inhabitants, but their calculations were a little off. The spaceship was bound to crash on the populated area of Armageddon. Even knowing that it would cause huge loss of life, Darkseid did not bat an eye. The spaceship was brought down on Armageddon, and innumerable lives were lost. Darkseid himself went forward to investigate the occupants of the ship. Meanwhile, Superman was on a vacation on New Genesis. He enjoyed his time over there, soaring free in the skies with the new gods. But he was Superman. He always listened to cries for help. A kid singed his wings and fell down, and Superman swooped in and saved her. The girl thanked him and wished him a good life. However, on the other hand, Darkseid and his minions descended over the alien spaceship. As the door opened, he was surprised to find that all the occupants were from an unknown race and origin and had perished already. Dr. Jin informed Darkseid that the spaceship was aged aeons. While Desaad literally tasted the sufferings of the dead on board, Dr. Jin directed Darkseid to the place from where the life readings were coming. There they found an ovomorph chamber where unknown creatures gestated. Suddenly, a facehugger jumped at Darkseid. He caught it with godly reflex and squashed it like a bug. Dr. Jin requested an opportunity to study those aliens. Darkseid granted him the same, but at the same time also planned to unleash the scourge on others. At New Genesis, the source wall burst open with a burning prophecy written in fire. The High Father gathered with the others in front of the wall and read the prophecy. It said, "A plague of horrors is to come. A stranger to New Genesis will fall. Apokolips nurtures this horror but does not birth it. One will fall with a monster at his heart. Many will follow the one. All will follow the many." Reading this, the High Father was highly concerned about the future. Though the future was not written, still he doubted if New Genesis had the power to change it, as it had already started. He even had to unravel the identity of the mystery stranger. Darkseid had held Dr. Jin inside an isolated chamber with a facehugger. As Jin screamed for his life, Darkseid sat and watched with a sinister smile. The facehugger had already implanted the xenomorph embryo inside Dr. Jin. He wanted to understand how the facehuggers functioned. After Dr. Jin's chest burst open, Darkseid's soldiers went in to capture the juvenile alien. They got the xenomorph, as Darkseid narrated his plan to hit the new gods so they may never recover. As Superman relaxed on New Genesis, High Father and Orion arrived. They told Superman what the source wall had prophesied. Superman could be the reason for New Genesis's downfall. He might be the weapon that will cause a war and end New Genesis. And on Apokolips, Darkseid set up his parademons to be in an ovomorph chamber to be implanted by xenomorphs. Round 2. Die for Darkseid. Darkseid attacked New Genesis with his entire army of parademons, all impregnated with xenomorphs. They ravaged the new gods in their path and advanced towards the heart of the planet. Lightray, Barda, and Superman jumped into the fight to subdue Darkseid's army. They were surprised by the sudden attack that Darkseid had wrought upon them. High Father advised Orion to stay and rethink their actions, but the Dog of War was not one to stand back from the fight. He jumped into the war too. Colonel Herondus started killing the inhabitants in his path, but was stopped by Superman. Although initially overpowered, Superman stripped Herondus of all his high-tech armor and then lifted him and threw him away. Lightray caught Herondus and joked about how Darkseid's army would fail because of him. Superman then joined Barda as she fought Darkseid's soldiers. Orion had joined the fight and flew towards the Apokoliptian ships to destroy them, but he was the actual target. All the soldiers hoarded up on him and overpowered him. While Superman and Barda fought the soldiers, he asked her about the strategy Darkseid had in mind. Even Barda Barda wondered about Darkseid's actual agenda. Lightray had taken Herondus to meet the Highfather. Highfather asked why Darkseid had risked war between the planets with such an open attack. Herondus said that he did not know the whole plan. All he knew was that all the soldiers, including him, were expendable. Saying that, he started coughing out blood and laughing simultaneously. As he took his last breath, a juvenile xenomorph burst out of his chest. Lightray immediately got into action and incinerated the xenomorph with an energy blast. Surprised, Highfather asked Metron if he had seen such a plague before. Metron replied that he had on worlds, which were now dead. In the warfield, as Superman, Barda, and the soldiers from New Genesis stood their ground, the parademons amassed for another attack. Suddenly, all of them started choking and falling from the skies, and then Superman whispered in fear, "Not here, dear God, not here." The chest of every parademon in the army burst open. A river of blood ran down. Thousands of juvenile xenomorphs sprang out in the open. Superman understood that Darkseid wanted to plant a colony of xenomorphs on New Genesis. Superman flew to the Apokolipsian Mother warship to stop the boom tube to New Genesis and the Queen Xenomorph. But as Superman and Barda broke into the ship and entered a closed chamber, they found an unconscious Orion, already implanted with an alien by a facehugger. Round 3, last train to Apokolips. Orion came to his senses, screaming the name of his enemies. Superman calmed him down and told him that the war had ended, but the invasion had just begun. He told Orion about the larva that was implanted inside him by the facehugger. He said that it would kill Orion. The doctors showed the scan of his chest to Orion and told him that the xenomorph was already in the second stage of development. Once fully grown, it would burst out of Orion's chest. Orion, depressed and angry, did not want to die by a parasite. Superman broke the worst news to him. New Genesis was facing the threat of colonization by a horde of xenomorphs. Meanwhile, below, Barda and his armies followed the stench of the xenomorphs and reached the underground tunnels, where an army of xenomorphs attacked them. As the xenomorphs surrounded them, Barda let out a war cry to die fighting for New Genesis. Suddenly, the tunnel wall burst open and Forager entered with his friends. He told Barda and her army to follow him, for he was their only chance of survival. Inside the Citadel's medbay, Superman told everyone that unless he exterminated the Queen Xenomorph and her ovomorph chamber, every world was in danger. Darkseid could infect any place under his thumb. As such, he decided to travel to Apokolips. Even when Superman and Highfather advised him to stay back, Orion wore his battle garb and got ready and traveled through the boom tube to Apokolips. Highfather could only watch in sadness as he knew that the stranger that the source referred to was Orion. Forager and his crew weaved nets and contained the xenomorphs in the tunnel while Barda and her army escaped. Jugundus single-handedly held a collapsing cave, and he would have died if the others had not pulled him out. Even then, the xenomorphs followed. Barda wounded a few of them and advanced through the caves. As Superman and Orion descended on Apokolips, a horde of facehuggers advanced at them. Superman used his Arctic breath to free and throw back a few of them. Orion spotted the entrance to the hive where the Queen might be found. Superman and Orion entered the hive and found the corpses of the people of Armageddon with all their chests burst open. As they stormed towards the ovomorph chamber, Darkseid kept watch on all their movements through his sphere. Smiling an evil smile, he welcomed his son to Apokolips. Round 4, Gods vs. Aliens. As Superman and Orion advanced, Orion used his flamethrower to burn all the xenomorph in their way. While Superman focused on eliminating the Queen Alien, Orion's focus was on killing Darkseid, for he believed that as long as Darkseid was alive, no world was safe. Darkseid would always find one way or the other to destroy New Genesis. As they fought through the horde, Superman implored Orion to stay on the mission. He destroyed so many xenomorphs that he drowned in their blood. Orion came to his aid and rescued him. Superman had started weakening because of the irradiated air of Apokolips blocking the sun, but he believed that he had enough juice to finish the mission. Kalibak questioned Darkseid's intentions as he could clearly see that Darkseid did not sport any wish to stop them from reaching the ovomorph chamber. Darkseid choked and silenced Kalibak and told him that he was prepared for Superman and Orion. While Highfather and Lightray discussed the impending doom for Orion and New Genesis, Barda and her comrades climbed up the cave walls with the horde of bloodthirsty xenomorphs behind them. In a moment of relief, Forager stopped them and said that it was the only way out of the pit, and they had all the xenomorphs in New Genesis tailing them, and he had a way to stop them. Inside the ovomorph chamber, Superman was slowly losing his powers as he was far away from a sun. He could not fly anymore. Orion assured him that he would kill the Hive Queen, but Superman could not allow killing. He said the Queen had to be incapacitated, and he had already promised the Highfather that he would take the Queen to New Genesis. As they bickered, Orion screamed out in pain. The alien inside him had already matured and was now tightening its grip around his heart. Even in pain, both Superman and Orion burst into laughter when Superman pointed out the condition of the only heroes on a mission to save the universe. Inside the pit in New Genesis, Forager played a flute and signaled a plethora of giant bugs who had a unique way of protecting their lairs. They coated the path to their burrows with a frictionless fluid, and no being could get a foothold on it. As the bugs secreted the fluid, all the Xenomorphs lost their hold and fell into the pit. Barda ordered Jagundus, and he threw a big chunk of stone to cover the pit once and for all. Superman and Orion had found the Hive Queen. Orion charged at it with the intent of killing it, and Superman shouted at him not to. The Queen hit Superman with her tail and threw him aside. Orion was not one to heed to Superman's cries. He deployed the flamethrowers on the Queen, but the Queen caught him with her claws. She was about to snap Orion with her inner jaw, but she realized that there was an alien inside him. Superman crawled up and tried to help Orion, but Darkseid was already there. He used his Omega Blast to obliterate the Hive Queen instantly. Orion fell down and screamed out because of the pain in his chest. The juvenile was about to burst out of his chest, but Darkseid did not want his son to die as a husk to a parasitic being. It was not a warrior's death. As if through an act of mercy or love, shot his Omega beams again at Orion and destroyed the alien inside of him. When asked, Darkseid said that Orion was his enemy, but he was also his son. He opened a boom tube and let Orion and Superman return to New Genesis. When Superman and Lightray returned, the horror in New Genesis was over, but Highfather knew that Darkseid's plan did not end there. In the aftermath, Desaad asked about the reason for Darkseid's compassion towards Orion. Darkseid assured him that it was not compassion. Orion had a warrior's heart, and it was Darkseid's way to reach him. He had planted a seed of doubt in Orion's heart. It would make him question the Highfather later and coerce him to betrayal. But if this plan of Darkseid ever failed, he had already devised a contingency. Saying this, he presented to Desaad an entire army of parademons, all infected by facehuggers. Batman vs. Predator 2 Blood Match. Round 1. I know what you did last summer. It was a hot summer night in Gotham, a year after the first Predator attack. Batman was doing a recon on a drug deal by Manny Tararo's men. From initial perception and the conversation between the dealers, he felt that the deal was not one of Manny's, but Batman was wrong. It was a burn. Manny had sent out his shooter Panetti to remove competition, posing as a drug dealer. Before Batman could act, Panetti blew the competitor drug dealer's brains out. Without hesitation, Batman jumped on him. He snatched his gun and booted him in the face. Meanwhile, from a rooftop, Huntress watched. She was also there for the drug bust. Batman asked Panetti where Manny was. He replied that Batman was a dead man, for he was marked. Surprised, Batman asked what he meant. By that time, Panetti had reached his second gun and was about to shoot Batman. But before he could do it, an arrow pierced through his hand and pinned it to the pier. Panetti screamed out in pain. Batman turned and told Huntress that he already had Panetti. Her eyes narrowed as she asked if Batman would ever approve of her methods. He told her that she would never have his support if her methods spilled unnecessary blood. He continued, explaining how he could have kept Panetti talking while maintaining a safe distance from his knife. As if on cue, Panetti lunged with his knife, but Batman's reflexes were quicker. A swift punch rendered Panetti unconscious. Taunting Huntress's methods, Batman retorted, "I don't hunt, I stop." Round 1. I know what you did last summer. Shaking with anger, Huntress left while Batman waited for Panetti to regain his senses. Meanwhile, amongst the stars, a Predator watched a monitor where the recordings of Batman's last fight with another Predator was being played. It watched how Batman beat the hell out of the last Predator with a bat. It watched how the Predator killed itself. It watched Batman brag about what lived in Gotham. All the while, it tested its retractable razor blade and beheaded a Batman statuette that was built as a reminder of his heroism. Then it jumped into hyperspeed in its spaceship and boomed towards Earth. Batman dropped a bucket of water on Panetti and he came to his senses. Batman asked him about Manny, but all Panetti said was that there was a big contract on Batman's head bearing large money, which attracted world's best in a free-for-all competition. So Batman was dead meat. Batman delivered Panetti to the police and informed them of the crime. The Predator kept his ship hovering in the air and jumped down. Upon landing, it ran after a deer to hunt it down. Meanwhile, Huntress's mind was occupied occupied with the thoughts of a boy named Jamie who had died of drug overdose in the school she taught, Manny's Drugs. She wanted to dismantle Manny and his business completely. Batman drove the silent streets of Gotham, his mind focused. Unbeknownst to him, an assassin had him in his sights, the cold steel of a sniper rifle aimed with deadly precision. The assassin's finger hovered over the trigger, ready to strike. The Predator, invisible to all eyes, sneaked up behind him, opened his hand blades and decapitated the killer while Batman drove by, unaware. The assassin was codenamed Marks. At Gangster Lou's office, his secretary handed him a dossier on Manny that had the photos of the assassins who had signed for the contract to kill Batman. They were Marks, Scarlatti, Ronnie the Rat, Song Sung, Twitch, Redmount, and Demon Man. Lou was immensely happy and called for a drink. Meanwhile, near a building, found the naked corpse of Marks, hung upside down, with his head missing. The Predator went to the roof of the police headquarters. Marks's head was hanging by his waist. He laser-ed the base of the bat signal. It fell apart with a blast. Hearing it, Gordon and his team stormed to the rooftop. Seeing them, the Predator cloaked itself invisible. Gordon shouted, "The monster! It's back! Stealing the signal beacon! Open fire! The shimmer! Shoot at the shimmer!" But it was too late. The Predator killed 4 police officers on sight. They were no match for the intergalactic beast. Gordon screamed at them to fall back. They bolted the door from inside and waited. Gordon told his men that the Predator wanted the signal beacon to lure Batman, the biggest prize in Gotham. The Predator beheaded a police officer and took his head as a trophy. Then it ripped open the rooftop iron door and walked inside. Gordon and his men shot at it, but the Predator shot a laser blast and the staircases broke and everyone was hurled below and landed hard on the ground. Huntress looked into a pool club through the skylight, a place where Panetti used to hang out. The Predator punched her from behind and lifted her up by the hair. It scanned her but found no similarity with the Batman, so she threw her aside, rejecting. Lou and Fran were inside and heard the noise and shot at the skylight. Decimating the skylight, the Predator jumped in and impaled Lou with his spear. He threw his razor disc at Frank and it went through him, killing him on spot. All the time, Huntress could do nothing. Batman rushed towards the building, hearing the reports of the gunshots. Moments later, Huntress crawled towards the skylight in pain. What she saw made her puke. Batman entered the room while Huntress climbed down. They found the bodies of Lou and Frank with their heads missing. Suddenly, Batman spotted the bat signal being shined from the other side of the river. Batman drove towards the spot of the bat signal. The radio talked about the see-through slasher from last year. Batman understood that another Predator had made its way to Gotham. While the paramedics carried Gordon to the ambulance, he murmured out of delirium that the signal was not from the police. It was a trap and Batman had to be warned. As Batman drove, the Predator was shown holding up the bat beacon from the other side of the river. Round 2, The Hunter and the Hunted. As Batman walked into the woods, the Predator threw aside the beacon and it smashed on the ground. Batman walked straight to find a tree with 7 heads hanging from its branches. At least 3 were cops. Behind that tree, the Predator waited. It held its Yautja combistic high and it opened up. Shakakt! It jumped on Batman with its combistic spear held high, mimicking the voice of Marks and calling Batman a clay pigeon. Batman kept dodging the spear attacks, but it was very clear to him that this Predator was more fierce, bigger, younger, ruthless, and more bloodthirsty. It threw Batman to the ground and tried to stab his head with the spear, but Batman turned. He kicked the Predator and threw it aside. Meanwhile, the killer named Twitch had followed Batman to the signal. He took out a bomb to be used against Batman. Batman threw a batarang at the Predator's gauntlet, but it broke into pieces. It kept attacking Batman with its hand blade, but Batman kept dodging all of them. At Lou's base, Huntress went through the dossiers of all the criminals. Even after taking almost 10 solid hits, the Predator was unfazed, but Batman was getting exhausted. The Predator picked up a tree branch and started beating up Batman brutally. Hit after hit after hit after hit. Batman was not able to see properly. The world was turning upside down. As Batman lay incapacitated, the Predator roared out a cry of victory. Meanwhile, Twitch had planted a bomb in the Batmobile. The Predator hung him upside down from a tree and mimicked a human voice and said, "Round 1, champion." Huntress, too, followed the signal and arrived at the riverside. She saw the Predator from a distance and followed it. When Batman regained his consciousness, the Predator threw the head of the bat statue on the ground. Then it popped out its gauntlet claws. Kashanked! As it took a slice at Batman's head, he lifted his head up. It caught hold of his head and tried to insert the blades into his face, but Batman caught its hand. He punched hard and the Predator's helmet fell afar, revealing its ghastly face. Huntress shot a burning arrow and freed Batman. The arrow put the tree on fire and the Predator was mesmerized by it. He kept looking at it as if in a trance. Batman found a window and smashed its feet with the statue head. The Predator screamed screamed in pain. Huntress jumped and kicked the Predator aside and helped Batman get up. As they ran, the Predator shot a laser round. Batman and Huntress saved themselves and made a run towards the Batmobile, but Twitch was already waiting there. As Batman and Huntress approached the Batmobile, the Predator jumped and stood in the way. Twitch threw the switch, thinking he would take down the monster as a bonus. There was a big blast. Batman and Huntress were thrown afar, but the bomb failed to kill any of them, and the Predator had landed right in front of Twitch. It shot the shoulder laser cannon and obliterated Twitch while Batman and Huntress escaped in her car. On their way back, Batman explained everything about the alien headhunter. She replied that Batman needed a Huntress by his side, but Batman did not give in. He got down from Huntress's car and walked to the cave. Song Sung arrived at Manny's mansion, beat up his bodyguards, and took her share of money for killing Batman, of which Manny had ditched her before. In his cave, Batman delved into detailed groundwork to understand his enemies. In the other end of Gotham, the Predator picked up a severed head and signaled another spaceship which flew towards his location. Lieutenant Frank Stalker gave the briefing to the police about Gordon's critical condition, while Huntress made up her mind to help Batman whether he needed her help or not. Round 3. Combat Ready. Batman delved into a vicious training session inside the Batcave, training hard to incapacitate and thwart multiple threats without any pause. He did it in 19 seconds, his best run till date. Batman was still not satisfied. Meanwhile, inside its lair in the alien spaceship, the Predator boiled the skin off all the heads he had taken as trophies and lined them up in a shelf. Batman understood that the Predator was killing off all the assassins threatening Batman, as it wanted Batman to die by its hands. When asked by Alfred if he'd be using the auxiliary suit, Batman deemed it too restrictive. What he actually needed against this Predator was silence, stealth, and speed. Manny had already got the whiff of the Huntress following his tracks, so he had sent out the Rat and Redmount to kill her. But the assassins were all competing for the money. In their hunt for the Huntress, they attacked themselves in an alley. While the Rat strangled Redmount, Redmount shot him through the head. Both of them died miserably. As Huntress sat down to examine their bodies, Batman appeared on the rooftop. He was garbed in his new stealth costume. He told Huntress that he was willing to team up, but only to stop the Predator from killing the assassins. Huntress agreed, but she wanted Manny for herself. At the hospital, the feds arrived to have a talk with the commissioner, but Stalker stopped them. He pulled his gun at them and said he'd shoot even if they tried to disturb his boss. They came to an agreement to talk outside. Batman tested his new costume at the cave and listed out the assassins that were left: Scarlatti, Demon Man, and Song Sung. Batman looked into the computers to learn of their possible locations. At the restaurant, the feds told Stalker to advise Gordon to stand down. They had a stealth team of their own, and they would deploy them to stop the Predator. However, Stalker said that his men were killed, and standing down was never an option for him. In the waters of the Gotham River, another spaceship had landed, and 2 new Predators came out. They were in search of the Predator in Gotham. Huntress had deduced the location of Manny to a club and went there. Batman followed, and the Predator followed him. When Huntress entered, she was ambushed by Song Sung. They engaged in a fierce, bloody fight, but ultimately Huntress knocked her down. Manny pointed his gun at her, but Batman arrived and threw a batarang and disarmed Manny. But right then, tearing through the walls, the Predator broke in. It drove its spear into Manny and killed him. Huntress threw her baton towards it, but the Predator threw it away like a twig. Batman punched it and ran, luring it outside, clear of civilians. The Predator chased him, while Huntress apprehended Song and made the call to the police. At the hospital, Stalker told Gordon about the feds and how they had their own team who could neutralize the Predator. Stalker himself wanted a place in that team and asked Gordon to sanction it. On the rooftop, Batman used his scrambler to deactivate the camouflage of the Predator. He found it, but it was a different Predator, and it was dead, beheaded. Another Predator materialized in front of him. It didn't attack him. It just came and collected its dead partner's body. Batman finally realized that the Predator after him was a renegade and went against its own kind to hunt Batman down. As Batman prepared for a hell of a battle, the Predator roared out a war cry, lifting the dead Predator's head in its hand. Round 4. End of hunt. In the Batcave, Batman explained all the recent happenings to Alfred, and he was taken by surprise. Gordon called the special Bat Line, and Batman left in the Bat Cycle as he believed it would be best to operate in non-confined spaces. On his way to Gordon's location, the Demon Man started tailing Batman and attacking him. A police car started following them too. Dodging the fire, Batman threw a rope and caught the Demon Man by the neck. He dragged the Demon Man to the police car and left him there, wounded, to be picked up by the cops. Batman met Gordon, Stalker, and the feds on the GCPD rooftop. Gordon introduced the feds to Batman and told him that they had prior experience in handling a predator. They had devised a plan to lure the predator using a replacement bat signal, given what the bat symbol meant to the bloodthirsty hunter. The venue had to be the rooftop because, as per Stalker, it was where his friends were killed. The signal was lit and the predator saw it. Huntress saw it too and understood that it was a trap. As the predator arrived, Batman used the scrambler. The predator's cloaking device malfunctioned and it was seen. The soldiers opened fire and wounded it, but Batman realized something. He screamed, "No! It's the wrong one!" Hearing this, everyone stopped, but they could not understand what Batman meant. Batman tried to track it, but it had already escaped. Batman revealed that this predator had come to Earth to kill the Renegade One, and silently, from behind the Renegade predator climbed up. It threw its razor blade. Shah-shak! The heads of the Fed officers rolled down. It captured one of the soldiers and took him away. It was Lieutenant Stalker suited up as one of the elite teams. Batman and Huntress decided to follow the predator in her car. Huntress deduced that the predator needed a power source to light up the signal previously, so they figured the predator's spaceship might still be there. It could be tracked to that location. But as they left, Scarlatti followed them. They reached the riverside where the predator had hung Stalker inside his spaceship, still alive. As Batman and Huntress prepared to climb the cable that disappeared inside a cave, there was a movement in the woods. Scarlatti screamed as he was impaled by the predator and his head was severed. As Batman and Huntress climbed, the predator stood outside, taunting them with Scarlatti's head. Batman and Huntress entered the ship. There they found Stalker, who yelled that it was a trap. The predator threw a switch and the spaceship shot into the Gotham sky. Batman used his scrambler and the predator's cloaking device stopped working. Batman could now see his foe. He threw a magnesium flare at it and blinded it. He jumped into the air and kicked the predator. Huntress threw a shuriken and lodged it in its ribs. Batman kicked it hard from behind. Without any pause, Huntress fired an arrow from her crossbow and it got lodged into the predator's neck. Batman, using a retractable batarang, beat the hell out of it. But as Huntress was going to stab its head, the predator gave out an energy discharge, electroshocking both of them. Batman was too stunned to move, and the predator advanced to kill the Huntress. Stalker jumped in and stabbed the predator with the combistic spear. The predator slashed Stalker and beheaded him, but it was hurt too. Batman found the perfect opportunity and kicked it down, hard. It fell on the ship's control board and was shocked through the combistic. The ship started losing control. The predator opened a hatch and Batman and Huntress fell through, dropping straight towards their imminent death. But then, right from the heart of the Gotham River, another Yautja ship rose up. It was manned by the other predator who was hunting the Renegade. Batman threw a bat rope and used the ship's traction to jump straight into the river. As they climbed up, they saw the second ship drive ferociously towards the Renegade's ship. The other predator was fulfilling its mission, enforcing its code of honor. It drove into the first ship and both the ships were blown to oblivion. The second predator sacrificed itself to stop the hunter. The heat wave was finally over. There was a cold breeze. Joker had attacked Gotham again, and Gordon lit the signal. Batman bid goodbye to Huntress and left for the manhunt. But as Huntress walked away, something watched her, as if through a Yautja heat signature tracking vision. Green Lantern vs. Aliens. Round 1. Assault on Space Sector 1522. 10 years ago, deep in the dark caverns of the planet Terama in Sector 1522, the Xenomorphs had taken over. It was completely covered in xenomorph nests. A Green Lantern ring lay on the ground. Its wearer, the alien named Baron Char, suddenly jolted back to his senses from the pain in his chest. He screamed as a chestburster tore out into the open through his chest cavity. Back on Earth, a bank robbery was in progress when Green Arrow and Black Canary intervened. They incapacitated the thugs swiftly, but one of them advanced towards a gun. Right then, the ring-slinging hero Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern of Earth at that time, jumped into the action. He constructed a big hand and subdued the thug. As they walked out of the bank and planned a victory dinner, when suddenly the projection of a Guardian appeared. The Guardian called Hal immediately to Terama to rendezvous with the other Lanterns. Without further delay, Hal stormed towards Terama. At Terama, he met with 5 of the best Green Lanterns: Kilowog, Tomar Ree, Karmatui, the Green Man, and Salak. Hal assessed that the situation of the invasion might be dire. Kilowog briefed him that their mission was to prevent the invasion from reaching the populace. While Kilowog marveled at the organic structures of the nest, Hal went further in and discovered the body of Baron Char. As he sat down to examine Baron's ring, a horde of Xenomorphs attacked from behind. Hal constructed a cage, but they ate through it. The other lanterns joined the fray. All of them fought valiantly, but the fight was never ending. One of the Xenomorphs caught Hal's leg with its tail, and Tomar Ray constructed a sword to cut it. But the Xenomorph's blood spurted on him and burned him. The lanterns covered themselves in a protective bubble and took a breather to think the situation through. While Kilowog planned to kill all the Xenomorphs, Hal stopped them. He compared the Xenomorphs with sharks. Predatory and without intelligence, but not evil. He said that the Xenomorphs were nothing compared to their power ring. Hal suggested that they should live up to their sense of responsibilities of protecting the species and not eliminating them. As such, they created bubbles and gathered all the Xenomorphs and their eggs and took them to Mogo, where they would live and not endanger any other species. 10 years passed, and then a Coluan long-range ore transport vessel, damaged, crashed on Mogo. Round 2. Back in business. Kyle Rayner, the current Green Lantern of Earth, took a pause from his drawings and walked into the kitchen for a cup of coffee. He was surprised to find Tomar Dar, a Shudarian from Tomar Ray's planet, waiting for him in the kitchen. He directed Kyle to the sitting room and introduced 4 other extraterrestrials: Brick, Ash, Mahdana, and Salak from 10 years ago. All of them except Salak were supposed to become Green Lanterns, but Parallax had already destroyed the GL core. Kyle Rayner was the only Green Lantern of Earth, the only one known in existence, and they had come to him for help. Salak explained that Signet Dawn, a Coluan long-range vessel, had crashed on Mogo. But Mogo was infested with xenomorphic life forms, which were put there by the Green Lanterns in the first place. So it came down to the Green Lanterns to save the occupants of the ship from the aliens. Kyle agreed to join them on their quest and charged up his ring. They traveled to Mogo. After a brief recon, they slowly started looking inside the vessel to see if there were any survivors. As Kyle and Salak went into a bickering regarding cleaning up other Green Lantern's mess, Kyle came face to face with Officer Crow. Crow drew her gun at Kyle, but he quickly removed it. Once a moment of wisdom was reached, Kyle asked Crow about the reality check. She said that she was the first officer of the Signet Dawn with 38 crews. After they crash-landed on Mogo, the Xenomorphs came and took every last one of the crew, but left her for some unknown reason. The only thought in her mind was to get her crew back, so she teamed up with all of them and went further down into a pit that led to their nest. Suddenly, Crow alerted them. A horde of Xenomorphs had attacked. Crow shot one of them and their acid blood splattered all over. Kyle saved his comrades from the attack. He was no killer, but the only option to survive there was to kill. Kyle did his best in containing the situation, but ultimately it got out of his hands. The Xenomorphs took Brick, Ash, and Mahdana as captives. One of the Xenomorphs used its tail to pull Tomar into the pit. Kyle jumped in and caught his hand, trying to pull him up, but he couldn't hold on, as Tomar fell down. Kyle's ring also slipped out of his fingers and went straight to the bottom of the pit. It was the worst-case scenario, and the only Green Lantern did not have his power ring. Round 3. In the Mouth of Madness. Kyle tried to summon his ring with his willpower, but it did not come back to him, and that made him doubt his own willpower. They decided to climb down the pit, but before that, Crow asked Kyle to take up a firearm. Kyle had not used a firearm ever in his life. He tried practicing and fell back with the recoil. Crow lifted him up and taught him how to shoot. Then they climbed down slowly. Salak thanked Kyle for helping him not get captured by the Xenomorph. Kyle replied that it was a part of his job. He confided in Salak that he was no killer, so it might not be possible for him to eliminate the Xenomorphs. When they reached the ground below, they found that most of Crow's crew were dead with their chest cavities open wide. They found a survivor, but Crow tried to kill him as he was already infected. Kyle tried to stop her when a horde of Xenomorphs attacked. Crow and Salak started shooting, but Kyle froze. Crow shouted at Kyle to shoot, but he was too afraid, until one Xenomorph came directly over him. Kyle had no choice but to shoot and save himself. Multiple Xenomorphs attacked Salak and tried to take him captive. Kyle tried to shoot them, but his gun jammed up. One came directly at him and snapped its inner jaw. Crow saved Kyle by shooting it through its mouth. Its acid blood splattered on Crow's stomach and hurt her. They went into a tunnel and the Xenomorphs followed. Getting them into a confined space, Kyle and Crow started shooting and killed them. Getting out from the other side, Kyle offered to help Crow and tried to look at her wounds. Crow savagely refused his help. Then they looked below and spotted the Hive Queen giving birth to the Ovomorphs. Kyle spotted something to the right of the Queen as Crow looked. It was his power ring. Round 4. Beware my power. Kyle used his willpower again to summon his power ring. It levitated upwards but fell down into the pool of splooge below. The grown-up Xenomorphs carried the Ovomorphs and put them in front of the captives. Kyle told Crow that either the splooge was very strong or he was damn exhausted. Either way, it wasn't working. Crow suggested that they climb down and eliminate the threat, but Kyle thought it was too risky, as there was only one gun to fight the creatures below. Crow was not one to give up. She suggested going down and drawing the aliens towards her, while Kyle got his power ring, or else no one else would be alive. As Kyle was the only one who could work the power ring, it was the end of discussion. The plan was set. Kyle took the chance and kissed Crow, saying it was for good luck, as he saw in a movie once, and begged Crow not to shoot him. Crow did not flinch. She slided down, saying that the ring was the only thing that mattered, and Kyle followed. Crow started shooting the Xenomorphs and all of them homed in on her, wounding her. Kyle looked back once and was shocked to see that Crow was a cyborg. Crow shouted in a mechanical voice to save her crew, but as Kyle was going to pick his ring up from the splooge, a facehugger jumped at him and bound his face tight. Struggling to breathe, Kyle used the final ounce of his willpower, and the ring answered. Kyle used it to form hand constructs to pull the facehugger off his head. He wore the ring and turned, only to see the Hive Queen standing behind him. As it attacked, Kyle created a shield construct to keep its jaws away from himself. It threw him aside, hard. Kyle could take it no longer. He created a machine gun construct and blew the hell out of the aliens in sight. He walked up to Crow, who was a mess, all her circuitry ravaged to the point of no return. He created a protective bubble around them and talked to her. Crow pleaded with Kyle to eliminate the aliens. Kyle replied that when did not have the ring, it was a separate matter. But now that he had it, he didn't have to be a killer. The ring meant that he had a choice. Crow said that Kyle's predecessor had a choice too, and Kyle what to reap what he had sown. With her dying breath, she asked Kyle, "Do you want whoever follows you have to do the same?" And then Crow passed away, with tears in her eyes. Kyle stood up with the bubble around him. He was determined now. Whatever action he took, he had to make sure that those events never happened again. He held up his hands and recited his Green Lantern oath, and with each verse the green light got brighter and eliminated the Xenomorphs in continuous waves of energy. "In brightest day and blackest night no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light." And with that, the final wave of green light powered by sheer will wiped off the entire Xenomorph colony from Mogo. In the aftermath, Kyle gathered up the survivors outside. He was still lost in thoughts. Mahdana and Tomar were there. They pacified him that although many lives were lost in the battle, Kyle was able to save a quarter of Crow's crew. That deemed the mission successful. Kyle was still disturbed about the fact that he had to kill the Xenomorphs, not the ideal that a Green Lantern lives up to. Mahdana told Kyle that he made the best decision so that no one else was endangered in the future. Kyle was still uncertain. He said maybe Mahdana was true, but the past came back to haunt no matter what someone did. Saying this, he looked up at the stars, remembering the hero Hal Jordan. Batman vs. Predator 3, Blood Ties. Round 1, Brutality. It was another summer in Gotham with an ongoing heat wave. A group of thugs escaped in a car after their caper, shooting in all directions and at the police, creating the worst chaos possible. The driver spotted 6 red dots on his face. The next instant, his face was blown away. Their car tumbled and the thugs fell out. They started shooting at a shimmer which advanced towards them. A razor blade was thrown that cut 2 of the thugs from the waist. Another predator appeared behind one of them and gutted him like a fish with its gauntlet blades. Then the 2 predators collected the skulls and spines of the thugs as trophies and left. Later, detectives Moses and Murphy briefed Bullock and Montoya on the whole gory incident. An investigation was legally put in place. Batman and Robin looked at the crime scene from above, and Robin pointed out the edge in Batman's voice. Batman said that he had a hunch, but he could be wrong. He hoped he was. The 2 predators were hauled up at the Gotham Bridge. One of them was an old soul, having fought cowboys and robbers in the Old West. It held a pistol and reminisced about the time when it killed an Apache gunfighter and took that pistol as a trophy. The old predator gifted the gun to its young apprentice. As the apprentice held it, the old predator yelled out a war cry. Driving by the bridge, Robin thought that he heard a howl. He asked Batman why he was cryptic with him. Batman assured him that they would speak at the Batcave. Meanwhile, Bullock and Montoya visited the mortuary to learn about the findings of the autopsy. While investigating the murders at the Batcave, Alfred reminded Batman about a similar visitor who Batman had encountered twice before. But Batman did not want to disclose anything in front of Robin as he feared Robin's further actions might endanger him. He wanted to be completely sure. Meanwhile, at a nearby bank, Mr. Freeze and his group of thugs pulled out the perfect robbery. However, the security office got suspicious and sent the police to the bank. Freeze and his men drove out in a van, shooting at the cops. Batman and Robin also got the news and started pursuing them in the Batmobile, but Freeze shot his cold gun and froze the windshield and the cameras. Batman switched on the radar, but one of the Batmobile's tires gave away and it crashed. Freeze and his gang had hauled up inside a frozen food storage plant, but the Predators had already made their way there. They burst open through the walls and started killing Freeze's men brutally. Then they slowly advanced towards Freeze. Round 2. Animality! The Predators killed all of Freeze's men and collected their skulls and spines as trophies, but seeing that Freeze was standing there just in his pants and without weapons, they did not think of him as a threat. After examining him thoroughly, they left. Later, Bullock and Montoya investigated the place along with the CSI, but could not make anything of the killer. By that time, Freeze had escaped through the tunnels. Batman and Gordon talked at Gordon's office. All the suspects were ruled out. Batman finally agreed with Gordon that they had a visitor from abroad and Gotham was a hunting ground. Gordon admitted that he was scared. He had many questions, which he did not want to be answered. Batman caught Robin listening to their entire conversation from the rooftop. Robin asked Batman why he was keeping him at bay. Batman said that he needed more information on what was going on. He had an idea about the killer, but was unsure about its origin. In one of the ice cream factories of Gotham, Freeze appeared and threatened to kill an ice cream man unless he dropped Freeze where he wanted. The ice cream man followed his orders. In the Batcave, Batman studied the blueprints of an AH-99 Jaeger helicopter fitted with an array of radar options and missiles. He wanted to take a proactive approach and hunt the Predator and send it out of Gotham City. Alfred asked if Bruce would be stealing the Jaeger from the military, but Bruce had plans to steal the Jaeger from Wayne Tech, and Alfred's acting skills would be required. Meanwhile, hauled up inside the bridge, the older Predator held a dog tag in its hands, another trophy. He reminisced how he had killed a soldier many years ago and took that from his corpse. As Batman and Alfred were leaving, Robin arrived again asking details about the case. But Batman refuted him, saying that Robin needed to stay low for some time. Alfred reminded Batman Robin had a specific set of skills and capabilities, and as such could prove valuable in the fight. But Batman said that specific set of skills and capabilities was what made Robin a potential target. Meanwhile, Robin contacted Oracle and she hacked into the classified government files and updated Robin that the killer was extraterrestrial. Robin had a hunch that there may be more than one of those killers. Meanwhile, Catwoman was breaking into one of the diamond showrooms, and as if by sheer bad luck, a Predator targeted her. Batman located one of the Predators from a distance thanks to the radar of the Jaeger, and he rained rubber bullets on it. While the older Predator escaped, Batman chased the younger one. Meanwhile, Catwoman escaped. Batman laced the Predator with an epoxy-based paint with a hint of radium and it became visible. He chased it to a dead end. Batman thought that he had got the Predator cornered, but right then, the other Predator jumped on the tail of the Jaeger. Round 3. Fatality. As Batman was about to activate the taser charge, the other Predator took out the fuselage with its combistic spear. Batman thought he had the Jaeger under control, but the rotor gave in and exploded. Batman ejected to a safe location. It was then that Batman understood that there might be more than one Predator. Montoya, Bullock, and the other police had discovered the ice cream truck in which Freeze had escaped, but all they found there was the corpse of the ice cream man. When Batman and Alfred came back to the Batcave, Robin told them that he had worked out the location of the nearest freezer from where the ice cream truck was found. He deduced that Freeze would be there, since he couldn't survive more than 20 minutes in the heat. Without any delay, Batman and Robin rushed to the location. Robin entered first and Freeze attacked him. He did not have his costume. All he could use as a weapon was his cuffs and chain. Robin dodged all his attacks and knocked him cold with his fight stick. When he came to his senses, he was tied up. Batman and Robin asked him about the killer that brutalized his men. Freeze was reluctant to answer, but then Batman threatened to increase the temperature, and Freeze divulged everything. He said that there were 2 Predators who killed his men, but didn't even touch him. After the police apprehended, Robin asked Batman to explain the current situation, but Batman reminded him that their involvement was only until they found Freeze. Batman then expressed his concern, stating that he did not want Robin getting any closer to the case as he might get in the way. When Robin attempted to object, Batman interrupted and instructed him to take some time off, live as Tim Drake, and wait for further instructions. Despite Robin's request for a discussion, Batman firmly refused, stating that there would be no discussion or explanations. As Robin left, both the Predators kept watch on him, as if relating to him and reflecting. In the cave, Batman told Alfred that he had underestimated the predators. He needed a place where he could corner them, and there was no better place than the Wayne Towers. Next day, Alfred arrived in disguise at the Wayne Tower. He introduced himself as Archie Nichols from Occupational Safety and Health Administration. He said that there was a streptococcus bug in the air conditioning system and the building needed to be cleared and decontaminated. Bullock and Montoya tried to coerce Freeze into telling them about the killers, but he did not budge. Tim also started spending more time in his civilian identity as Batman had told him to. At night, Bruce and Alfred slipped into the Wayne Tower in disguise. Bruce changed into his Batman garb and climbed on the top of the tower, then sent out a beacon. From the bridge, the Predators saw it. That night, Batman wore a new stealth armor to fight the Predator. He ordered Alfred to return home. The Predator climbed up the Wayne Tower and went inside. Batman tracked down its shimmer camouflage and tailed it. It sensed Batman, but when it turned, nothing came up in its heat signature tracking vision. Batman smiled. The Predator was not able to see him. Batman shot a bazooka at it and hit it with a non-lethal payload. It fell through a glass window. As it got up and tried to gather itself, Batman tased it. Its cloaking mechanism malfunctioned, and its helmet fell off. Batman kicked it and kept punching it, asking where its partner was. But the Predator caught Batman's punches and pushed him towards the ledge. Then it suddenly mimicked what Robin had said to Batman. "I knew the dangers when I took this job." At that instant, Batman knew that the other Predator had targeted Robin. At the Bristol Pike Drive-In Theater, Tim, Ariana, and their friends had gone to watch a sci-fi movie. As they joked about how funny the movies were, the second Predator slowly climbed down the movie screen. Round 4. Finish them. Batman realized that the younger Predator was hunting Robin. He immediately called Alfred, but before he could talk, the Predator attacked. Batman vented the cold gas on it and startled it. It didn't like the cold. He toppled it over the roof and threw it on the skylight below. He dangled by a vine and stabilized his fall. He immediately implored Alfred over the comm channel to find Robin as the other Predator was hunting him. The Predator had already stood up on its feet below. It targeted Batman and fired its laser cannon. Meanwhile, Alfred made the call to his cell phone. He alerted Tim that one of the killers was behind him, and not only his life but the lives of the people in his proximity were also in grave danger. Although hesitant at first, Tim was convinced when the Predator jumped in front of the screen, and although it was camouflaged as a shimmer, its shadow was projected directly on the screen. Tim immediately screamed at his friends to get out of the car and drove off without any explanation. At Wayne Tower, Batman dodged another laser blast and somehow managed to jump to one of the floors in proximity. He was hurt and bleeding inside his armor. At the Bristol Pike, the other Predator shot at Tim, but Tim saved himself from the blast by maneuvering his car. Batman saw that the Predator he was fighting bent down and picked up his helmet and wore it. It was now ready for another round with Batman. Tim had driven back to the Batcave, now in his Robin garb. He screamed at Alfred to give him the entire story. Alfred denied, as it could expose Robin to this Predator problem. As they bickered, the cave alarm started blaring. Batman moved from one room to another. He had a plan and he had traps set. But all the while, the Predator kept watching him through the CCTV. Robin told Alfred that the Predator had followed him. He looked under the Redbird and found a transmitter. As he stood up, Alfred spotted the targeting red dots on Robin's face. He screamed and hurled Robin from the line of fire. The Predator's cannon blasted and threw the cave dinosaur down. As the Predator jumped at Robin to impale him with his combistic spear, Alfred shot his double barrel and the bullet caught the Predator's shoulder. Then they retreated for cover. Meanwhile, at the Wayne Tower, the Predator followed Batman's blood trail while Batman administered medicine to his wound. Robin and Alfred wandered deep into the cave and decided to make their last stand on the bridge leading to the Citadel. The older Predator walked into the men's room and fired its laser cannon and tore a hole in the wall. Batman escaped through the hole and the Predator followed. The younger Predator attacked Robin in the Batcave. Robin snatched the rifle from Alfred and fired at the cave ceiling. All the bats panicked and flew down and flocked on the Predator. On the other hand, Batman fired Freeze's AB-0 cannon at the Predator. In the cave, Alfred and Robin tried to cross the bridge to the Citadel, but the Predator blew it off. Then it came up from behind them. They had nowhere to run. It took out the pistol that the older Predator had given to him and pointed it at Robin. And meanwhile, Batman stormed towards the cave. He had tied up the Predator in front of his subway car. He had won. Robin dodged the bullet from Predator's shot, but it grazed Alfred. He hit its hand with his stick and the pistol fell. The Predator cut Robin's fight stick in half. Robin kicked, but the Predator caught his leg and dangled him from the bridge. Just then, Batman arrived. He held up the older Predator's amulet in front of the younger one. He said that the game was over. It had lost. The younger Predator put Robin down. It took the amulet that Batman threw at him. Batman said, "Cut your losses. Take your father and go home." It followed Batman's orders and went to tend to his father. Both Alfred and Robin were bewildered. Batman explained that it was an initiation, a rite of Yautja passage for the young Predator. Robin was supposed to be its first kill. When Robin asked why it chose him, Batman replied that the Predators saw him and Robin as father and son, each of them to challenge and equal their skill, trophies to be hunted and collected. As the Sun Predator carried his father out of the tunnel and flew back in their spaceship, Batman said that the way they humiliated both of them might be insulting enough for them not to return to Gotham. Wildcats Aliens. The good and the bad versus the ugliest. On a fateful day, a Stormwatch escape module from the Skywatch space station crashed on Earth in Manhattan. The crash caused huge damage to life and property. Void teleported Grifter to the scene and they watched the cleanup crew trying to get the survivor out. They found out that the survivor was the superhero named Flint. Later, while questioning her, they came to know that at the Skywatch space station, an analysis craft was brought in when it faced some trouble. But there was an infectious outbreak. Weatherman, the leader on board Skywatch, recorded a message and invoked the Storm Door Protocol, a force field that would stop any teleportation to or from Earth. Flint said that she faced a monster before leaving in the pod. She heard it, but its blood was like acid that spurted on her face and burned her. All she could do was leave in the pod. She said that the monster might have been a Daemonite, an ancient race of monsters that the Karens had vowed to wipe out. At their headquarters, Grifter summoned Lord Emp and Zealot. He briefed them about the situation. 500 people stuck on Skywatch space stations with the storm doors up and Demonites on board. He told Emp he needed his help to save those people, and only Void could teleport them there. They reconvened with 3 more members: Spartan, Maul, and Warblade. Void teleported all of them to the Skywatch space station. There, Maul pointed out the generic workstations, into which Spartan got himself connected, and then played the recorded files before the epidemic on board started. The monitor showed a xenomorphic body, much like an asteroid floating through space. Thinking that the asteroid rock could be used to build spaceships protected from cosmic radiation during interstellar travel, they had sent out an analysis team in a shuttle. But when the shuttle came in, most of the crew inside were either dead or infested by facehuggers. They tried to contain the situation using the pyrokinetic superhero Fahrenheit, but there was a biological contamination. And there, the transmission ended abruptly. Maul looked into the computers and searched for energy signatures. He found out body heat signatures of multiple people inside the cold penitentiary, and it was by the Transfer Bay 1 used for teleportation. EMP assured Grifter over the comm that he had their back. Teleporting to the cold penitentiary, they found that the temperature had been raised. They felt something was wrong, and just then a horde of aliens attacked them. Grifter blasted a few, Zealot cut one in half, and one of them inserted its inner jaw into Void's belly. Maul pulled it out and tore it in half, but its acid blood burned his hands severely. The place was completely infested by xenomorphs, and the heroes had no other way other than to fall back. Void used her power to teleport them out. Outside, everyone gathered themselves up. But Maul was badly injured, Zealot's blade was scarred with the acid blood, and Void had to wait for hours until she could teleport everyone back to Earth. EMP gave them direction to Transfer Bay 1, but when they went there, they found everyone was killed brutally and the control panels were ransacked. So they walked towards Transfer Bay 2. On their way, they found the officers' lounge and entered it. There they found that the Xenomorphs had already killed Fuji as well as Hellstrike. Something dripped on Warblade's head. He looked up and a Xenomorph jumped at him. He striked with his claws and ripped the alien in half. Then they moved forward, only to find Fahrenheit in front of them. As they called out for her and lit the pathway, they saw that it was Fahrenheit's dead body. All her guts were hanging out, as a Xenomorph's tail protruded through the hole in her gut. This Xenomorph, born out of Fahrenheit, blew fire at them. Grifter shot at it, and they ran out and closed the door behind them. They used a hatch to come down, only to find more death. They deduced that the Xenomorphs were moving down towards the Skywatch reactor. If they destroyed the reactor, the storm doors would come down, and the Xenomorphs would be able to reach Earth using the pods. Spartan sent Grifter and Zealot to stop the aliens from destroying the reactor, while the rest moved towards the transfer bay. Spartan and Warblade carried Maul and Void to the training center, where they found Weatherman, Christine, Winter, and all the other survivors. Spartan scanned them and ascertained that all of them were infection-free. Grifter and Zealot killed their way to the reactor but found the Hive Queen residing there instead. Weatherman, Spartan, Christine, Warblade, and the others tried to go towards the transfer bay, but they too were attacked. Weatherman blasted their way out, but there were casualties. Spartan was badly hurt. Christine found that the bay could only facilitate internal transfers. Although wounded, Void agreed to transfer the people to Earth in a group of 6. Christine and Winter teleported to the Watch Hall and tried to initiate the nuclear self-destruct cascade, but it was already destroyed. Winter said that he would send Christine back and would hold the doors open for the others. At the reactor, Grifter took out his belt of grenades and hurled them at the Hive Queen. Christine tweaked the machines to generate enough power for 5 mass transfers to Earth, while Weatherman located Grifter and Zealot. As the grenades blasted and killed the Hive Queen, the other Xenomorphs attacked Grifter and Zealot. They were teleported out right in time by Weatherman. Grifter and Void stayed back to destroy the control bay to prevent further usage, while the other used the transfer bay to teleport to Earth. Grifter then destroyed the control panels and Void teleported with him to Earth. In the Watch Hall, Winter commanded a full burn on the engines and aimed the space station right at the sun, obliterating it and the curse that it carried within. Superman and Batman versus aliens and predators. In the heart of the Andes Mountains, 5 volcanologists journeyed to the Viejo Abuelo volcanic mountain and surprisingly found it active. They discussed the last known time the volcano was about to erupt, and it was long ago. One of them, Pierre, kept looking over his shoulders. He thought he caught something out of the corner of his eye, and right then, with lightning speed, 5 razor discs were thrown in the air, and they beheaded all 5 volcanologists. Their bodies and heads rolled down and fell still in the snow. At Gotham City, Batman stealthily listened as Potatoes Rostov made a bid to steelworker union rep Michael Cray. Batman felt some movement, however his infrared vision was messed up due to the extreme ambient heat. He caught one of the chains overhead and dangled towards the spot where he suspected movement. As he went there, he saw 3 predators gathered up as if planning. As Batman jumped right in the middle of them, one predator hit him in the shoulder with a knife and knocked him down. Batman gathered himself up, but the predators had run away. Batman assessed the situation and wondered why they did not manifest their hunting MO. Round 1, Super Friends vs. Super Enemies. At Metropolis, Superman rushed towards a B-13 power generator at Sector C when John Henry appraised him of the life-threatening situation. The generator had been overheating and would explode with a lot of casualties. Superman went into the tunnels and to his surprise found out that 2 predators were sabotaging the generator. The predators turned and saw him, then shot their laser cannons at him. However, the force of the blast was non-lethal, meant only to release a blinding flash of light. Superman regained his sight and found the predators gone. He asked John Henry over the comm to help him fix the generator. After the danger had passed, Superman and Lois listened to the news at the Daily Planet office. Perry White stormed into the room. Mount Viejo Abuelo started erupting for no reason, and 5 volcanologists had disappeared there. Perry assigned Clark to travel to Peru and cover the story. Lois tagged along for free, and they set forth on a new journey. On reaching the mountain, they found a fabric which Clark could not recognize even with his microvision. Superman used his telescopic vision to see that there were armed men leaving in helicopters. He understood that it was no reporter business, so he asked Lois to climb down while he took care of the business. As Superman flew directly into the pit of the volcano and found a soldier pinned to the wall with a spear. He had seen the spear before. It was a Yautja spear. As he flew down, there was a blast which killed more soldiers. Superman tried to administer help, but they were already dead. Suddenly, Batman appeared out of nowhere. On their way down, Lois's companions were killed and an unknown threat stood in front of her. Superman and Batman started exchanging notes. Batman said that there were recent activities in Gotham where predators had left back volcanic dust. Batman traced them to Viejo Abuelo. The intelligence circle all around the world knew about the predators as they had been visiting Earth over centuries. The League of Prime Nations had created the Terrestrial Defense Initiative to counter these predators, and they had sent across the soldiers to kill them. But the soldiers were killed instead. To find further answers, they climbed down the pit. Suddenly, a predator fired a cannon at them. Superman gathered himself, but Batman fell down and was covered in rubble. Superman rushed at his help, but he found a horde of Xenomorphs surrounding him. He started fighting them. Batman had already found his footing and stood up to fight the aliens. He caught the inner jaw of a Xenomorph and kicked it hard, but unfortunately he was overpowered. To his bewilderment, 4 predators came to his help and killed all the Xenomorphs. Then they tied up Batman and took him to their ship below. Upon entering, Batman untied himself. However, an alpha predator stood in front of him. Batman referred to it as friend and tried to reason with it and slapped it hard. The predator mimicked and called Batman a friend and punched him hard. As the other predators armed themselves to kill Batman, the Alpha stopped them. A fight ensued between Batman and the Alpha. Batman was incapacitated, but he used a blowback defibrillator to stun the Alpha. As the Alpha laid at his feet, Batman dismantled him and wore its armor as the winner. Superman struggled with the Xenomorphs when suddenly the volcano started erupting. Superman flew with the intent of helping Bruce, but he heard Lois's scream. On the other side, the predators carrying Lois also tried to run away from the volcanic eruptions. Superman flew there. He used his heat vision to create a channel to divert the magma, then hit the predator and rescued Lois. The predators signaled Superman by hailing him they wanted Superman to follow. They led Superman and Lois to the ship, where Batman awaited with a group of predators. Batman told Superman that the predators were apologizing to Superman. The predators did not realize that Lois was Superman's female, and they did not want to anger a sun spirit. Batman had convinced the predators that Superman was a friendly, animistic deity, and Batman was acting as an emissary to the colony. Batman said that those predators did not follow the hunting hostilities of the other Yautjas. They had come to Earth 14,000 years ago when their guidance system failed. To save themselves from the cold, they found refuge in the volcano. They had brought xenomorph eggs with them. They created a hermetic colony of their own, where they honored ancient rituals by hunting the god creatures and taking their blessing. But now, with the volcano erupting after so many years, they looked for an alternative place of living. Always believing in the sanctity of life, Superman told Batman to tell the predators that the Sun Spirit was making a covenant with them. They should not harm any human ever, and in return, Superman would bring his fortress of solitude to the mountain and help the predators return to the stars. Batman adhered to the plan as Superman flew off. On the other hand, the leaders at the Terrestrial Defense Initiative gathered and decided to vaporize the volcano and everything in it. Round 2. World's Finest versus Finest Worlds. As Superman flew down with the Fortress of Solitude to help the predators, the TDI attacked. Superman evaded the missiles, but the mountain took heavy damage. Persevering, Superman flew in. The TDI pointed out that Superman himself was an alien, so as per the directive, he was a threat too. Superman reached deep into the cave where Lois awaited him. Batman said that after the TDI attack, the predators were now desperate to make one more war with the outside world and die honorably. Superman asked Batman to convince them that they would live to hunt another day, only if they boarded the Fortress of Solitude. One by one, all the predators transferred into the fortress. But when they went inside, there was a misunderstanding, and one of the predators sensed danger and destroyed Superman's robot, Kalex. Batman warned Superman that they were agents of chaos. Superman said that inside the fortress, Kalex would be there to greet them in their language and would calm them down. Superman had further plans. He wanted to gather all the Xenomorphs and put them in the fortress too. Batman strictly advised him not to, but Superman could not be reasoned with. There would not be genocide on his watch. On his request, Lois and Batman also went inside the fortress. Inside, it was zero gravity. As soon as Lois and Batman materialized, they were attacked by the predators. Lois tore out the cybernetic propulsion unit from Kalex and used it to propel them through the zero-G towards safety, but the predators followed. At the volcano, Superman gathered up the alien eggs by freezing them. He went inside the Yautja ship and placed them in the stronghold. Then with his mighty strength, he lifted the spaceship up and placed it in front of the particle beam teleporter and entered the fortress. There, he too faced the mutiny of the predators, who attacked him as he materialized. He subdued them with heat vision and super speed and took their weapons before they entered their ship. Superman connected with the broken unit of Kalex and ordered it to be prepared to activate the super robot and establish broadband contact with the TDI and convince them not to blow them up. He had set up all other robot units to fix the Yautja ship. Meanwhile, he had to find Batman and Lois and save them from the other bloodthirsty predators. The predators inside the ship planned for another attack, but before they could put it in action, the Hive Queen attacked and drove its tail through one of the predators, killing it. Batman fought the predators and incapacitated them using a toxin that he had prepared from their blood samples extracted during their previous encounters. Meanwhile, the super robot tried to convince the TDI, but the leaders gave an ultimatum of 1 hour, after which they would reduce everything to ashes. On their way, Batman was incapacitated and Lois was knocked unconscious by the Hive Queen. When she came to her senses, Superman was standing right in front of her. Lois told her that the Xenomorph had taken Batman. Inside the ship, the mutiny of the predators prevailed, as they took their arms up for war. Superman took Lois and followed Batman's heartbeat through the fortress. Crossing a long distance, they finally reached a wall, behind which Superman could sense Batman alive. But behind the wall was an alternate dimension without oxygen or sun. Batman was encapsulated in a xenobio cocoon, while he used his breather to siphon as much oxygen as he could. He dislocated his joints and got out of that cocoon. The Hive Queen saw him and swooped in directly at him. Batman kicked its head and used the zero-G in his advantage to maneuver and stab it with a toxin. But its skin was too tough, and it grabbed Batman. Superman arrived right in time and freed him. Batman threw the toxin at Superman and he rammed it down the Xenomorph's throat. The Xenomorph screamed and fell unconscious. Superman and Batman were both weak and decided to leave the dimension. Meanwhile, the TDI planned to bomb the volcano, but one of their leaders stopped them. They still owed 15 more minutes to Superman. The Predators had already got out of their ship and destroyed Superman's robots as well as the super robot. Superman and Batman arrived there and came up with a plan. He told Batman to give the formula to knock out the Predators to Kalex. He told Kalex to pump the formula through the air circulation system. All the Predators were knocked out and placed in their ship. The robots alerted Superman that there was only 3 minutes and 12 seconds left to complete destruction. Batman told Superman that they were risking their lives for 2 killer species that would wipe humanity out if they got a second chance. But what the hell were friends for? He was in it with Superman. With destruction imminent, Superman pushed the fortress out of the volcano. The TDI saw it and felt betrayed that Superman was trying to save the Predators. They deployed their Hunter-Seeker missiles. As the missiles chased Superman in the air, he pushed towards space. He broke the gravity and threw the fortress in space and ordered Kalex to beam the Yautja ship out. As the ship materialized in space, Batman manned it from inside and set the coordinates to the home planet of the Predators. Then he ejected and fell towards Earth. Superman got the timing right and caught Batman mid-air. Back on ground, Batman, Superman, and Lois watched as the mountain was decimated by the TDI missiles. Superman was content that no lives were lost on his and Batman's watch. Batman joked that Superman should speak for himself, as Batman was more focused on protecting human lives. Kalex intervened and told Batman that had the Predators been killed, the ship would have activated an ancient distress signal and there would be another attack on the planet. So, in a way, an interplanetary war had just been averted. Lois elated with joy, as she would get the chance to write a story on the entire adventure. With victory achieved, the heroes slowly turned away from the destruction and headed home. JLA vs. Predator, the meta battle of the century. From the JLA Watchtower, Martian manhunter John Johns contacted a Dominion spacecraft that was severely damaged and leaking oxygen. He communicated that he had connected the JLA transporters to the ones on the Dominion ship, and he would transfer all the occupants to safety to the Watchtower. Joan acted swiftly and brought the Dominators on board even when Oracle advised otherwise. Upon reaching the Watchtower, the Dominators acted as per their primal selves, to eliminate or dominate every race other than theirs. But John stopped them, but suddenly he could telepathically sense an assassin behind him who was hunting the Dominators. As he ducked, a laser blast hit the ground. John slipped through the floors and told Oracle not to contact anyone or they might be walking into a trap. He switched the communication to telepathic and looked out for the assassin, while a shadow with a blade approached him from behind. Sensing that Joan was in utmost danger, Oracle immediately contacted Batman, Green Lantern, and Superman. She briefed them on the situation. Superman and Green Lantern rushed towards the Watchtower. They met in space, where Green Lantern advised Superman to join him so that his ring could take them to the Watchtower at light speed. Meanwhile, Batman told Oracle that anything that could neutralize Joan, the most powerful member of JLA, was a Class A threat. She should alert the rest of the League. Oracle quickly connected Aquaman, Flash, Wonder Woman, Plastic Man, and Atom. Superman and Green Lantern went into the Watchtower, only to find John's head impaled on a Yautja Combistic. Superman deduced that it was a Predator, having faced one before. He briefed Green Lantern about their strengths and primal instinct. He was heartbroken that Joan was dead, but suddenly Joan's head spoke. The brain was not in his head. He was a shapeshifter, and even if decapitated, he could reform. Surprisingly, his beheaded body walked into the room. Superman and Green Lantern helped him attach his head back. John pointed out that he had a telepathic connection with the Predator that had attacked him. Batman teleported in and pointed out that Predators do not have that ability. Batman informed the team that the Watchtower was now empty except them. Teleport records showed that the 3 Dominators teleported to 3 different locations on Earth and the Predators followed them. He devised a plan to form 3 teams to apprehend the Dominators and bring them back to the Watchtower. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and Plastic Man went to Venice to capture the Dominator there. They sailed through the waters when suddenly something invisible attacked them. Wonder Woman cleared out the civilians. She tried to take the battle elsewhere when an invisible rope caught her feet and shocked her with millions of volts and incapacitated her. Plastic Man morphed into an airplane and tried to help Wonder Woman, but another Predator arrived which also changed into an airplane like Plastic Man and attacked him. As Plastic Man spotted one of the Dominators in the chaos, another Predator attacked Aquaman. Aquaman punched the Predator to short out its cloaking device. Wonder Woman gave her full strength and punched the Predator but fell short. Plastic Man carried Wonder Woman, the Dominator, and Aquaman and tried to escape the chaos as the Predators tailed them. Plastic Man kept shouting to John to beam them up to the watchtower, but John took no action, for he could sense the telepathic Predator's presence there. Amidst the ruins of an ancient civilization in Amazon, Flash, Green Lantern, and Atom went to apprehend the Dominator. The Flash got the Dominator with lightning speed, but as soon as they were about to teleport, 3 Predators attacked them. One equipped with yellow costume and blasts, the exact opposite of Green Lantern, one dressed up like Flash, and the last one like Atom. The heroes tried to separate and run, but failed. One of the Predators matched Flash's speed and slashed him using its hand blades. Green Lantern's constructs were broken by the yellow energy blasts from another Predator. The Atom went small, and so did the Predator. He lured it to turn subatomic, and as soon as it did, Atom deflected a positive electron towards it and shorted out its equipment. Atom kept hitting it, and so did Green Lantern. Flash kept running with the Dominator and kept screaming at John to beam them up. John telepathically assured Flash that he would help him as soon as he could. Batman and Superman teleported to England. After a brief recon, they were able to spot the Dominator and Superman swiftly captured him. Right then, 2 more Predators attacked. One had powers exactly like Superman, while the other had stealth and strategy similar to Batman, and it was about to attack him. Just then, John teleported all 3 teams back to the watchtower. He apologized to the team for not acting earlier. He showed them the corpse of the Predator on board and told them that unless he eliminated it, he couldn't bring the teams back. Batman immediately started interrogating one of the Dominators, and it spilled out all the secrets. The Dominators captured the Predators on a moon they controlled. They cloned them and modified their DNA to mimic and kill the JLA. They were meta-predators. Once awake, they killed everyone in the facility except for the 3 Dominators. They ran to Earth for protection and the Predators followed them. Hearing this, Batman was ready to take on the Predators as it was his home turf. But then, Superman sensed that the meta-predators were already there. They attacked immediately. While blocking their attacks, Aquaman quickly devised a plan to exchange opponents, hoping to turn the tide of the battle. Green Lantern took on the Atom Predator, while Aquaman and John teamed up to tackle the dangerous Wonder Woman Predator. Wonder Woman herself launched a fierce attack on the Plastic Man Predator. Meanwhile, Superman engaged in a brutal fistfight with the Super Predator, knowing he was the only one strong enough to handle its immense power. Flash targeted the Yellow Lantern Predator. With incredible speed, he threw it aside, giving Batman the perfect opportunity to pin it down. Plastic Man wrapped himself tightly around the Batman Predator, binding it securely. Atom shrank down and entered the Aquaman Predator's costume, subduing it from the inside. In the chaos, Aquaman landed a powerful punch, knocking the Wonder Woman Predator unconscious. At the same time, John projected a telepathic blast, disabling the Atom Predator. Green Lantern constructed a massive hammer with his ring and smashed the Flash Predator into submission. With a mighty swing, Aquaman used a pillar to smash the Plastic Man Predator. Batman broke the Yellow Lantern Predator's armor with a well-aimed batarang, allowing Flash to deliver the knockout punch. Aquaman then turned his attention to the Batman Predator, delivering a decisive punch while Wonder Woman bound it tightly with her lasso. Finally, Superman lifted the Super Predator high into the air and smashed it into the ground with a resounding crash. With all the meta-predators accounted for and defeated, the Justice League of America stood victorious once again. The battle was over, and the JLA had won. Superman told the team that the Predators were a species who would kill themselves rather than surrender. Suddenly, one of the Predators blew a hole in the watchtower. The vacuum of the space started sucking everything out. Plastic Man saved the Dominators and Green Lantern got the hole plugged, but the meta-predators were sucked out. The battle had ended. In the aftermath, Superman confronted the Dominators, who expressed confusion over being spared despite their intent to kill him and their ability to create dangerous predators. Superman informed them that their ship was set to return to their planet with a telepathic command preventing any deviation. When asked why he spared them, Superman explained that their mission was to preserve life, emphasizing the intrinsic value of all living beings. He advised them to change their people and build a better future. Despite their inability to understand his compassion, Superman sternly advised them not to return, and they were shot back into space towards their Earth. Marvelous verdict. That's all for today, folks. That is exactly how all our DC heroes thwarted the visitors from outer space. Rest assured, if there is ever another face-off between our heroes and the Xenomorphs or Predators, our channel will be there to cover it. And never be afraid of these otherworldly creatures. If Ripley and Dutch could fight and kill them, we can too. Just to be up to date and ready, go revisit all the movies and get ready for August 16th. Until next time, my friends, live and prosper and keep fighting for your lives.